Hello, everyone. Welcome to the commentary for the League of Incredible Vegetables. I'm Mike Naraki, the director of the show and one of the writers, along with Mark Steele. Mark couldn't be with us today, but we have producer Chris Wall.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
And music composer Kurt Heineke.
Hello.
And Kurt is also accredited with, are you a member of the AARP and the ASACP?
I'm a card-carrying member of Kroger.
Kroger, awesome. Yes.
Nice.
So, yeah, we're really excited about this show. You know, Larry Boy, we've done 3 Larry Boy 3D episodes to date. And the last one was Larry Boy and the Bad Apple. And
back in 2006, right?
Back in 2006, yeah. So it's been quite a while. And, you know, we love doing Larry Boys. We've hinted in the past of Bob wanting to be a superhero. He had, you know, at one countertop, he was talking about being the Red Wonder or Bobbin.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, we thought it'd be fun to, you know, have Bob be a superhero. But what a great thing it would be to have, you know, more than Bob, have a league of heroes come in, you know, when a problem was too big to solve. So that was
and it's interesting because that was the big nugget. It was a big crack was what kind of problem could exist in the world that would be big enough to need a league, and we spent forever on that piece alone, just trying to figure out.
Right, and who would it be? And would it be, you know, Larry and some kid veggies, or Larry and, you know, other veggies? But you know, finally we landed on our group, and you know, Bob, we called him Bobbin for a while because we were trying to riff off the whole Robin thing from Batman. But we just kind of felt like, well, maybe not enough kids, you know, everybody knows about Batman, but do kids now know about Robin? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we came up with Thingamabob, might be a good name for him.
Which Laura Knightsling actually landed that one for us. She did a great job.
Yeah.
We shopped for that one for a little while.
Yeah, for that one for a while. And so we got Thingamabob, we got Escape, who is Mr. Lunt, because he can escape from anything, and then Vogue, played by Petunia. So it's a group of heroes. And then, you know, we were in search of the protagonist, you know, in need of a solution for his problem. And Junior Asparagus has played that role really well in other Larry Boy episodes, and so we made this about Junior as well. And the other thing we revisited on this was just the topic of fear, which was way back in show 1 was the last time we approached fear. Where's God when I'm scared? And so, yeah, it just felt like a topic that kids deal with, and it'd be really great to revisit that with a VeggieTales episode.
By the way, Archie looks great in the Larry Cave on the countertop. You know, visiting our new QWERTY and his video patch. And
yeah. Yeah, we wanted to try to get him to feel kind of Skype-ish on that. So, folks, you know, longtime fans may recognize this set as the Museum in Pistachio.
And you'll notice the accoutrements from Abe in the Amazing Promise from Boo Booville, that segment. Yep. All the little museum pieces.
Is Junior's hat new?
No, that is from St. Nick.
Yeah.
So, and that's the Feardar. The Feardar is new. It's modeled after a police radar gun.
Kurt, we've gone very green here, so we reuse lots now.
You noticed when Scooter came in, there was a little bit of a bagpipe in there.
Yes, tell us about the bagpipes. I actually heard that in the score, and I meant to ask you. Is that you playing, or did you?
No, I've got a sample of that.
I thought you had it.
I brought in a whole troop of bagpipers just for that. My budget skyrocketed after that.
It was just your cost of kilts.
But it was just my little way of tipping my hat to his Scottish background.
Oh, it's great. Every time it comes in, it's awesome.
This is, numerous people have said this is their favorite performance from Scooter in a Veggie video. He is so fun in here.
Yeah,
Jim
he's just super
Poole
wacky.
Was outstanding on this. Just really went nuts.
And a word about score here, since Kurt is here.
Since I'm in the room.
Yeah, since Kurt is in the room.
We
Otherwise, we would just avoid it.
It's like when we mix.
Did you just snort? Was that you?
Well, it was snoring. But
okay.
Yes.
So we made this a kind of this whole open kind of a mix between, I don't know, what did we talk about? Sort of Home Alone. Just sort of the feeling of that type of a movie.
You want to just set up the, nice sweet feel at the beginning, but besides the big orchestral stuff that was fun to work with all the excitement going on,
we get into sort of a techno Mission Impossible thing.
Exactly. It was fun to bring that to the table, which we haven't really done before, just to add some rhythms and some pulses underneath. And there was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 different grooves that we had going on throughout the show.
Yeah. There's our first of many superhero.
That one
riffs.
took a long time, by the way.
with Dark Knight. Yeah.
Mike did a great job of hurting his voice that day.
That was very gruff.
The penguins are kind of all new. I mean, I know we've had penguins in a lot of shows. But was this kind of a ground up?
Well, they were based off of the penguins in The Star of Christmas. I'm sorry, The Toy That Saved Christmas,
Right.
which is the first time the penguin showed up, which is sort of and even at the time it was a veggie ode to the Wallace and Gromit penguin, who is sort of just a mysterious mute penguin.
Right. Yeah.
Great little character.
Yeah, you
And,
can't go wrong with penguins.
That's right. Love penguins. And obviously we've had our 3-2-1 penguin series, but these are very different types of penguins. They show up in their jumpsuits, and they Eenie, Meenie, and Michael are their names, which we'll find out in a while.
Now, we also reworked the Larry's ears and his suction and the rope and stuff. He's more modern now.
Yeah, well, we had a little bit of nylon cabling there just because it came out and it wrapped around him, so we just needed to make it feel a little bit more interesting.
It's way cooler too.
Yeah.
It's like climbing rope.
Exactly. And the animators did a great job on the secondary animation of Larry's ears. You notice when he moves around, and even when he emotes, like sometimes he'll go back like a scared puppy, but when he moves around, the ears sort of flop, and it really adds a lot.
What's this music here, Mike? I don't recognize this. I don't think I wrote this.
This is great. Well, no, this is Seth Mosley, actually, who we'll hear on the credits song. The Newsboys did a song, and Seth's done a lot of writing for the Newsboys. So he did the music for this, which then we incorporated into the score. And I think that's the first time, taking kind of a rock song and orchestrating around it. I think that's probably the first time you've done that as well. And that worked out well. So we took those stems and then got a men's choir together from the guys here in the office. And eventually the song Michael Tate for the Newsboys ends up singing it, which sounds a lot better than our office men's choir.
I don't know why you've ever not gone on the road with Newsboys, the office men's choir.
That's right. It'd be a big hit. And now the office men's choir.
So the name introductions here, all the comic stuff was done internally. Ron Eddy, our amazing designer, did those wonderful treatments.
Yeah.
Comic book effect.
Yeah, just give it that comic book feel.
Back to the song real quick, what the choir sings there. That was kind of your hook. You had the idea of, okay, I want this.
Yeah.
And didn't you then pitch that to Seth and the guys? And they
Yeah.
incorporated that into their song.
Yeah, just that little hook. I actually borrowed from a Billy Squier tune, "Everybody Wants You." So that was sort of the riff that I was using as the initial inspiration, and then from off of that, they built that. We sort of edited that to fit in here with "Incredible Vegetables," and then for the intro for that song, and so then the news.
But
then
just
Seth
to
built that whole thing.
clarify for our legally inspired kids,
Yes.
none of that song
Oh,
appears
no,
in here
no.
in any way. It was
Absolutely not. Well, that's kind of what you do. You use a temp score when you're building a story reel to kind of inspire the feeling that you want to get in the real score and in the real flow of the show. And then you have to replace all of that with original music.
Yeah,
If
so
you don't want to.
what you ended up with finally sounds completely different, but it had a groove to it that you really liked.
Yeah, you want to capture the emotion with a temporary music, and then use that to inform what your final music is.
This
So-
bit with his eyes frozen, by the way, is probably my favorite joke in the show.
Really, you like that? My eyes are frozen.
Just your delivery on it was so panicked.
Yeah.
My eyes are frozen.
My eyeballs are frozen. This is fun with the Penguin Snowball. I like, the animators did such a great job of just really putting really nice touches on the penguins, and it just, really helps them to be.
No, we actually
bad guys,
that's our
but silly
first
bad
shot
guys.
of one of the new vehicles, which is the Larrycopter,
Oh yeah.
which is all new, right? I mean,
Yeah. I don't think we've done a Larrycopter before. The Larry Mobile has flown before, and Alfred
Yes.
has his little scooter, but we have a bevy of new vehicles in this show. So this is actually going to be a toy. the
Available at your
Larrycopter.
local retailer.
So that's fun. It's always fun having toys from a superhero show.
Will we have penguin toys?
I don't know. I don't know if anything's on the plan. So
Will you
far.
make some for us, Kurt?
I'll
We have some Play-Doh in the back.
I'll carve them.
Yeah, we wanted to. This is a winter release initially. When this is coming out, it'll come out next October. So we wanted to give it a kind of a wintry feel, but also, the whole theme is being frozen in fear, and the main villain, who the penguins work for, we'll meet soon, is Dr. Flurry. So the whole snow thing is kind of a fun theme, and it really turned out to be, the look of the world turned out to be really fun in these hillsides, and then later downtown Bumbleberg, which we've, updated. Looks really cool in the snow.
This is our first opportunity to really talk about really the truth of the episode. I know, Mike, this was kind of a late edition. We kind of got to a place where we realized we weren't really helping Junior along early enough, and so this came in, and I know we kind of went back and forth about where it could go, and ultimately it feels great.
I think it worked out well. Yeah, we really want to, when our protagonist comes to his lesson moment, we want to make sure it's not coming out of the blue, that the story's really supporting it, and it worked really well to plant that language, earlier in the show, so when he recalls it later, it flows better. It makes more sense.
This is so great.
This scene.
It's my favorite.
So we've got penguins that are, can't wait to get out, and then, Michael, that's Michael right there. He's actually starting to reform, listening to Scooter's wisdom.
He's persuasive.
That's right.
This is one of those shots, too, Mike, where I know you worked with the animators and they did a great job, but it just is way above expectation, because in the boards, it was basically they're sitting back there and they escape.
Yeah.
But the little bits in between are just delightful.
Yeah, really, really helps to bring them to life.
Poor Scooter.
So here they are. This is the last time we see them in their groovy jumpsuits. The next time they'll be regular penguin selves.
There's the cave. Oh, we saw another vehicle just now. So we saw the shoe of Vogue.
Yep, Vogue's shoe, and
Very
then there was
cool
the Larry Mobile. Yeah, so we kind of needed to update the Larry Cave to be able to fit the League. And so, as the centerpiece of the Larry Cave is now this big round conference table.
It's a touchscreen. It's fully interactive.
So they all sit around it, and of course we've got our hot cocoa mugs. So I want one of those mugs. We don't have any made yet, but I can't wait for my League hot cocoa mug.
We may get those.
I know, yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah,
like,
when our licensing folks saw the final copy of the show, it was like, we should make those. We're like, that'd be great.
So by the time you're listening to this, they may be available.
That's right.
The cookie is not, although you could have your mom make one.
Now, the other thing, since so much of the action now takes place in multiple areas of the Larry Cave, we kind of had to light it a bit broader than we had in the past. It was a little bit more shadowy in episodes past. So this Larry Cave feels a little brighter and happier than some of the other Larry Caves in the past have been. But it's nice. It has a couple different compartments.
You can iron my cape, he says. Phil
only
ad
hear
lib
that.
for this character, particularly Lunt, is money. It's so good. The flippity flap on their flippers.
That's really
Created by Miles or Fred?
I forget who did the flippity flop.
It may have been
but
Fred, I think.
really cute.
So good.
Now, Kurt, I remember when we were talking about the theme for Dr. Flurry, the two things that came up were Adam's Family, harpsichord, and well, we wanted him to be kind of have a scary.
Wait.
Yep.
This is the most important note in the score right here. Boom! You just missed it. Because Mike and I went over that over and over about all these little phrases that would describe everything that the first two did, and then how did he get so much information on the third one? Just his little bleep to attention.
Trying to make that funny. But yeah, so Flurry, it's kind of, we wanted to make him, kind of like faux scary, so kind of got that Adam's Family,
that
harpsichord going.
kind of does it.
Yeah. And this is a great character. Mark Steele, one of the writers on the show, the primary writer actually, he's also great vocal talent, and we've used him before. He was the mirror on Sweet Pea Beauty. But he's got a great singing voice and a great performing voice. So it was. I think this is just this character. He just did such a great job on.
Hey, Mike, on this stuff, all the Dutch shooting, was that a storyboard note, or did you guys just pick that up in layout? Because it's such a signature thing with him.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, we wanted to. I had talked to the boarding artists about that. I wanted to go kind of like classic Batman on that. Like the Adam West, 60s Batman. Whenever you're in the villain's lair, the camera is overly Dutched.
Yep. Explain that for the kids and for myself.
Let me tell you about the Dutch. It's Holland.
It's going to take the rest of the commentary.
And I don't know. It probably had something to do with a Dutch cinematographer. I don't know where the term came
Just
from.
means the camera's leaning.
Yeah, the camera's twisted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the camera's twisted, which kind of gives you just a different sense, emotional sense when you look at it. Things just don't seem kind of straight.
And what does that say about the Dutch?
Here's my question:
the Dutch are a little off.
Is Kenneth Branagh Dutch? Because he directed Thor, and Thor had a lot of Dutch shooting.
Had a lot of Dutch shooting.
Are we
Yeah, he
following
might
a link
be.
here?
I don't know. He's got a very British accent for being Dutch.
Okay.
No,
So,
he just dealt with vertigo.
So yeah, because you mentioned this, the Adam West reference, like back in that. But when I first saw this, I thought of Thor because Thor was shot all kinds of crazy angles.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole movie,
yeah. Well, I'm a lot older than you, so maybe that's why.
That's probably why. Yeah.
You
Hey.
think Thor, I think Adam West Batman.
And how about this song before it wraps up? Isn't that a great song?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of big band Adams Family.
That was one of the fun things about these songs. The score is so big and intense and tongue-in-cheek, and then you have these real wacky, fun songs. That one kind of had the big band thing. We've got the Newsboys. We've got a beautiful little one coming up with Junior.
Yeah, a little soft
They're nice
shoe.
kind of emotional breaks.
Yeah.
Sure it can. If it hadn't been for your super suits, the feeder dar would have been stolen.
And nice
Right on
timing.
cue.
John
Yeah.
Waba edited this and just did a great job. A lot of these beats are just so funny. Oh, Scooter, you got duped. Oh, man.
Okay, well, this is very new for us. This is the very first Larry Boy episode where we've done a silly song. So we've kept it very thematic, obviously. So we're right back in the Larry cave.
They've all calmed down since they heard about the Feardar.
That's right. So this was actually Mark Steele's initial idea of a supper hero, just kind of the play on words. So then we took that and developed that into this
There's those ears
song.
looking sad.
So the development of this song took many turns. Initially, it was going to be Junior on the countertop with his parents. But then, so
Forgot
remember,
about
it just
that one.
went
Yeah.
a lot of different ways. And then finally I landed on this where, Jimmy Gord, wants to be part of the league by being the supper hero. And he has his own little outfit that he dresses up in. And I think it turned out cute.
I remember working a lot with just the little yummy yummies. That's my addition to it. My lyrics. I think you had one yummy in there, and then I said, "Let's do more yummies."
Oh yeah, you brought the yummy.
Yummy. No, he did today, too. He brought cupcakes.
Oh yeah. Kurt's all
So-
about the yummy.
No,
got the
that's,
yummies.
that's thanks to my wife. Thank you, Judy.
Actually, you know what? Remember Bill Haljan back in the early days? We've credited,
Yum
always
Yum.
used to credit him as Bill Yum Yum Haljan because he brought treats to everybody all the time.
Yes.
You just called back way back.
Yeah.
So this is funny because there's on the DVD there's a sing along of this song, and Mike had to review this recently and make sure there was the proper number of yum and yummies involved.
Yeah,
in
because
the
it
screen.
varies. It varies. Yeah, so we got to watch that. It's not just a cut and paste.
He ate their cake.
But it translates well.
Okay, now I had to go. Speaking of being older,
funny.
which I mentioned a few minutes ago, this line right here. Dude, he ate our cake. Okay, we had an intern here, a high school intern, and who I consulted on the word dude because initially I wrote dudes, he ate our cake, and she said, "No, what? Kids don't say that. They just say dude. It's not dudes. It's dude is actually the plural form." So
We went out
What's
to
the singular form?
we went to the limited focus
dude
group.
still
Yeah,
it's like deer.
Okay, the nacho tray. That was a funny story you told me.
Oh yeah.
The what? The what tray?
The nacho
Nacho
tray.
tray.
Oh,
Well,
nacho tray.
We work with a studio in New Zealand. We mentioned it several times, Hoo-Hoo. And, as I would explain the nacho tray to them, and it came back a couple times, just a plate of nachos.
nachos, yeah.
And finally, I just gave up, and I thought, okay, it's a minor thing. But like Americans used to seeing a plate of nachos in a certain fashion.
plastic
You
tray,
got
yeah.
plastic formed thing with the cheese that goes in one part and the jalapenos that go in the other part, and
Exactly.
then the
Partitioned.
chips. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all partitioned. So, so I gave up that battle. So,
Yeah, it was just funny that was. It was like there's some things that you expect to be cross-cultural.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody does this, and one of them that came up recently was when we had this electrical outlet for I don't know what show it was, and it was a European, New Zealand electrical outlet on the wall. And
New
it looked
Zealand's
weird.
not in Europe, by the way,
And,
kids.
well, they're part of the UK, but they didn't even they couldn't figure out what the problem was. We're like,
Yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
like it looks wrong. Like, what do you mean it looks wrong? Like it's colored wrong? No, it's like the wrong kind.
yeah.
The idea, Junior, is to select the one of my many super prototype outfits.
This room is so cool.
Yeah, it was a little testing room. So yeah, it was fun to actually go back deep inside the Larry cave and see more compartments. So
And we haven't seen it all, kids. Tune in for the next episode.
Oh, I don't think we talked about Alfred's chair. I just love his little floating chair.
Yeah.
He gets around
They
all
kind
over
of
the
look like
place.
big carrots. Was that intentional?
What's that?
The chairs.
The chairs? No, I love the way the colors work together. Like the orange of the chair and the purple and the green of Alfred, all just look really great together.
Sharp objects.
Not that sharp.
He's okay now.
That was a big no for Magnet Boy.
You okay, Junior? We can take a break if you need. I'll be fine.
So
Do this.
it's been a while since we've done a montage. I can't remember the last montage that we did. I
I
remember
mean,
there was one in
you
the Pirates movie.
And
You
then
know, with
instead
the
of
Yoho
Cuke, we
heroes.
did some little things to
Yeah.
transition, but straight up montage.
Yep. So this is our montage, and we were able to take the stems that Seth generated for the.
Now, Mike, did you come up with all the ideas for what he would turn into during this, or was this Mark?
Mark suggested some of them, and then I think the boarding artist also added to that.
Throw some in.
Yeah.
It was, if you think about that, it's the idea of sitting down and coming up with superhero, like what their outfits could be. I remember we talked about it on the front end, like, wow, that's a little more complicated. Because you don't want to be redundant, like you're doing what is a known superhero.
Right. Yeah.
But you still want to have fun, and make it adventurous and something that kids would enjoy.
Exactly. And then just kind of ironic too, like this little thing. It's just what does
you wanna
this
explain
what
what
does
this
this
is
suit
supposed
do?
to be?
It just turns you into a rubber box.
Looks Japanese.
Yeah.
It looks like one of those little finger traps, It just goes
Yeah,
bad.
exactly. Yeah. But
You'll notice that on the handing over the clipboard, she got it right in the first suit.
yeah, Vogue's
Vogue
good
did,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah,
She-
she's
she-
good like that.
she knew the
Yeah,
fitment
when she
there.
takes charge.
That was fun. He's bouncing around the cave. That's the first time we get to see him bounce in the zip. And I know we worked a fair amount back and forth getting that. How much blur? How fast
much blur?
is he going?
That's right. Yeah, because he could tend to look stroby in that blur, but they finally locked it down into something that looks really nice.
Like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Plus, he's shiny.
Zoom.
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
got a
isn't that
nice
cool?
sheen to him.
Caveat. I need to waterproof.
Oh, caveat. Note this, kids. If he doesn't waterproof. When did you add
Is that
this?
a plot point?
So if you got wet,
This joke here. I can't remember when this.
I've been at a pull-up.
Oh, that one?
Oh.
Yeah. That one came in boarding stage. Yeah, we talked about, after,
Because I remember
like
it
a lot
wasn't
of
in
times.
the script and it was a later ad.
A lot of times when we get stuff onto the story reel, we'll say, oh, we could use some kind of a joke here or there, and then we'll kind of go back in and kind of do some rewrites as touch-ups to add jokes.
That was
Alright.
another vehicle we saw too, wasn't
That was
it?
a vehicle. We'll see it in a second, so we'll mention it there. But that was the. Bob
Sorry,
cycle.
I won't mention it then.
Don't mention it, Kurt. Till later when we mention it. He got
So-
the side fixed on the van. No
Okay,
problem.
so we mentioned Adam's Family as inspiration on Flurry. This attack sequence is all Godzilla. So I actually went to iTunes and I bought the the Godzilla compilation as and gave that to Kurt as inspiration. So you just there's something about just those big,
Bum, bum,
those bum bum bum.
That just says
Kurt got
big.
multiple
yeah,
bum,
yeah.
bum, bums in
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
I was just watching a movie last night,
This is so-
completely unrelated, and
Uh-huh.
it was the same sort of bum dum.
This is so funny because you have this massive machine with this huge claw, and he pulls out a garbage can.
That's right. That's right.
It's just so funny.
It's gonna be silly on this.
I get a super vehicle.
Oh,
Bit of time, shall we?
just some of the sound effects tidbits on the helicopter. Remember talking with Sarah Voorhees, who did the sound design on the copter. We wanted it to sound kind of a little bit more space age.
There's the
you know?
Bob cycle.
Oh yeah, the Bob cycle's awesome. Than a typical helicopter, so it's got a little bit more turbo in it. And,
Yeah.
but just coming up with that sound, all these sounds just take a long time to really nail, just to make sure it feels feels right.
That was a funny joke there. When we first got into the boards on this, we realized that if you froze them solid, that it might look like they were dead. And so we really worked hard to make sure every character blinked or smiled or talked.
Said something.
Yeah, or said, "Ooh, cold," you know.
If you think about it, it's
okay, did you hear that
kind of
conversation
hard
I
to
was
blink.
having in the mix with Fred about this? So we were talking about, okay, so he's in a trash can inside a block of ice, and
Yes.
he's Scooter, who's hard to understand anyways.
Yeah.
How many levels do we need? Like,
Yeah,
how clear?
exactly.
Because his first pass, it was
Yeah.
just like, you couldn't, it was, you know,
Right,
what it would
right.
sound like inside a trash can inside a block of ice.
right, exactly. Yeah.
And so we kind of pulled it back a little bit. But
Yeah. Okay, this is a fun scene. This is where
It's always fun to build
where
up
they-
to something, and then it comes crashing to a halt.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay,
Big
here's
hero
our-
moment with this Thor hammer.
Yep.
Oh my. And then the face plant on the
Yeah, that was a great. That was all the modelers there at Hoo Hoo.
Yeah.
That wasn't called for. They added that bit themselves. That was a nice touch.
Yes, you can. Woo! Look at that cape.
Wrap around.
Down he goes. Oh,
Okay, so
And what's
Vogue
that?
has a little AM radio in there playing the league theme.
Whose idea was that?
Oh, that was your idea. That was nice. Yeah, that was a good idea. He just didn't want to score that. He's like, I can take a break from score if I
I'm
could
done
just
for the
use.
night. What can I
Yes, can
drop
cover
in
this,
here? A little newsboys.
he just carried him by his stem. By the way, I don't think Bob's been carried by his stem in a Veggie episode.
Not since he was a kid, anyway. It's like
By his
mother,
cat mother.
kittens.
Yeah. And the monkey. Is this
Okay.
an all new monkey?
No, we've used that monkey before,
Oh,
but
that's
he
right.
wasn't.
He was in.
Was he in the silly
He was
song?
in Penniless Princess.
Yeah, but he wasn't rigged.
But he was just really limited in what
yeah,
we could do because it was
so-
just that little imagination scene.
Yeah, so this one he had to be re-rigged. Now I remember recording the voice for him. You know, in our rough setup, Pro Tool setup here for the monkey, just
Yeah.
as you know, kind of a temp. Never knowing that would end up being the real voice all the way through. And I guess it works well enough. So
yeah.
yeah. So-
It's a cross between putting the real one in there, you know, and if you've got it right, Mike, I mean, come on.
Well, all I did, I made monkey sounds and then I sped them up. That's all I did.
Perfect.
So-
Kids, monkey sounds at home.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
I love the reference there to finding his blog.
Yeah,
Oh,
nothing's,
yeah.
and that's nothing's secret anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Find
Yeah,
it on his
yeah,
blog.
and the Facebook and blogging age, even
It's a little bit of a nod to some of the like Dr. Horrible stuff, you know, where you get a villain posting all his
yeah,
accomplishments, you know.
yeah, exactly.
I thought you did a great job with the hair here.
The
Here.
Hair, hurdy hair, heart.
did they get that pretty quick in figuring out what she should look like?
The hair. We had to go back a couple times on the hair. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to get that.
Full
Just
static.
to yeah. So, but yeah, the model on that worked out really well.
Something fun to do, kids, is to scroll through slowly and see all the different fears that were listed.
Oh yeah, those are
oh
great.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
kept in mix. We'd stop at different times, and it would be surprising what would be in there.
What are some
Yeah.
of them?
What? I can't recollect. Like,
Yeah,
we
there's a
wrote-
lot. I
Yeah.
don't know.
We
There's
we
just
kind
a
of made
lot.
them go fast enough so you couldn't
Yeah.
read them.
So here
Ready?
you
Here
can
it
read some
comes.
Lips.
Self-reflection. I saw
saw-
one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there's just a lot of goofy stuff in there, and we played that out in the credits too, with all the different departments. That we
Yeah.
got a list of all the departmental fears.
I love the secondary on his helmet. His little
Yeah, his
little
little
wing
Mercury
flapping
his
up
little
there.
Mercury wing. Yeah, that's nice. These are nice balloons too. These are very uppish.
Yes. That coming up with Larry being afraid of balloons is so funny. I mean, each of the fears of these guys was so funny because I know we talked about making them actually serious fears, and it was like, no, we actually need to make them kind of silly.
Yeah. Still with some basis in reality, but kind of silly.
Like monkeys, balloons, bad hair, you know.
Yeah.
Who thought of the balloons popping?
The balloons popping? I think that was Mark's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Mark's
I
idea.
wonder if that's a secret hidden fear of yours.
It could be.
Yeah.
I did have a Labrador who was
We're
afraid
getting
of
some-
balloons.
Psychosis
So
here.
very afraid of balloons.
That's great. I love that reference.
Yeah.
Because every starship and every big vehicle you never see
Never
with
had
seatbelts.
seatbelts. Oh no, don't jump. Uh-oh. All right, so we have a special guest appearance here. Someone who came to visit at our studio.
Oh yes,
Christina.
Yes, that's little Christina. She from the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It was her wish to be a veggie voice, and she
my
came from
gosh,
Houston.
I didn't know that.
Along with her whole family. And what was neat about it is we had no idea how she was going to be as a performer. But she had practiced her lines, and when she did them, that we were like, "This is awesome! She's
know.
great. Couldn't have asked for anything better."
We kind of blocked out a bit of time to work with her, and
Yeah.
she just got it. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, you're so precious.
Oh yeah, that was so neat. And then the little boy next to her is my son Michael, so he did a great job. But yeah, it was so neat working with her, and I can't wait until she can see the show. So we're gonna contact them about having a viewing.
Pretty much everything. So he is the ultimate power source. Zzz. Bad things.
There goes the police scanner. So Escape, who can get out of anything and fly really fast, is too far away. There's a couple holes here.
Couple holes here and there. He's across the street. There's another one of those where Larry Boy had to be able to speak or animate, so he doesn't look like he's hurt at all. It's just
So we redid. If anybody is from Chicago here, you may see a resemblance of between downtown Bubblyburg and the intersection of Clark and Diversey in downtown Chicago.
right here. There's a good overview.
So
right
is
there.
that, yeah, Kurt, you lived in Chicago for a while. Do you see it?
Boy,
So-
I'd have to go back to Clark and Diversey to
Yeah, you can just Google it. You can do a Google, Google map and look at that. Go to that intersection, and
And it was interesting because I know you talked about the initial layout, like if we just did a straight street, if we did a street with just a simple cross.
Yeah.
Kind of like because it's based on the one we used in St. Nicholas, which was just kind of a simple main street with one T.
Right.
And the V, which of course plays into the V on the vegetable logo and all
Right,
that,
right.
was just such a great idea because it made it feel like a bigger town
Right.
without having to make it huge.
So
Right.
you're saying
And
there's
it-
a hidden V in there.
There's
Well, yeah,
V.
it kind of there's
Sideways.
four seats, and there was actually another street that we took out later in production, just to save cost
Because we weren't using it.
Yeah,
actually,
weren't
we
using
realized we could double up.
So, but it was kind of cool, and it gave us a basis in reality, and so they kind of went, the New Zealand modelers went to Google and looked at Clark and Diversey.
They just went- made it.
modeled after that. Yeah.
This is a neat moment coming up because musically, we get a breath, we get a real subtle moment, and then we've got the song coming up that you can address a little bit more, Mike. But I loved doing this song because it's so different than the rest of the show. Got to play some live tuba on it, some live trumpet, and I was real excited that my son Clayton played some violin on it, which was very exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a neat little song for me.
And it's just in terms of its flavor, it just goes, soft shoe, which is kind of, a non sequitur to a superhero movie, which is a lot of fun. And I remember, Todd Carter boarded this section, and when it came back, I was just cracking up so much because he used this little suit generator to give Archibald a hat and cane, which was just brilliant. So all of a sudden he's dressed up in soft shoe attire, doing his little dance. So, but it's kind of like this scene is, to me, is very reminiscent of David and the Giant Pickle when King Saul is talking to David and trying to put on a suit. And really we use that imagery of David and Goliath, that biblical imagery, for our lesson here. And even when Junior goes up against the giant penguin at the end, you've got that David and Goliath sort of feel where all he's got is the snowball and this big robot is staring him down.
And like you mentioned, I mean, whenever you come up with, in the script it says there's the song, and we'll hear a little demo of the song. But I remember the day it came in, Mike, you pulled me in your office like, you've got to see this, and it was the boards from Todd cut in with the song.
Yeah.
And it just was so entertaining because it's not what the script asked for.
Right.
And story artist kids, who are the ones who draw the storyboards for us, are the ones who get to come up with, what does it look like in the world? Because it's on paper, words. He walks over here, he sings a song.
Yeah.
And this is one of those moments where the story artist just lifted it and made it so fun, so delightful.
Yep, absolutely.
Good joke coming up.
Yeah, this is another post joke after story reel, just to kind of add some silliness, and also to add a little bit of kind of another superhero.
Oh, I love him.
Spoof. Oh, Eenie. Oh, one of the things on the Penguins, they have these little kind of these convention name tags. Hello, my name is. We never really get a good look at them, which at first it was hard to tell. Obviously, when I'm improving models, you see everything up close and it looks great. And then, but when the final picture came in, I realized we never got a close-up shot to be able to really read it. But I think they're recognizable enough to be able to tell.
I love Vogue's metal shield cover.
Oh yeah, just
so
that
cool.
kind of comes down.
Nice work, Michael. Reminds me of your big bad cousin Steve.
Yeah, so all of their name tags say "Hello, my name is," and then we've got Eenie, Meenie, and Michael.
I love how Dr. Flurry is able to be funny and then like that. Time to jail. Like he can be a little intimidating.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
got that within
exactly.
him.
That's it. That's the kind of the balance we had to ride on the show was between goofiness and being just a little bit scary, because obviously it is about fear. So we had to walk that line.
And this was probably some of the most intense music I've written for a veggie show, because there are times that you've had me pull back, saying, "Okay, no, that's going to scare the kids."
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think because this is tongue in cheek, and
Yeah.
we're spoofing all of those
Yeah.
genres, hopefully we
Yeah.
won't scare the kiddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because the shows we've been working on around this show are like period and fairy tale kind of
Very
feeling.
light,
So
yeah.
very light, and this one's like so dun 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 dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Mike and I, once we finished mixing this, we went and worked on Little Ones Can Do Big Things, that compilation, and it's light and little guys can do big things. Coming off
Yeah.
of this, I remember we were in there going, it
It's just
feels
sort
like
of
it's kind of quiet. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah.
Lemon squeezy.
Here we go. Now, tell me about the introduction of this particular instrument for an action scene like this. What is this kind of nodding to, Kurt?
What do you mean?
All the Congo work here.
Let's see. he
Like,
set
what
up
is
a
that? Is
question.
that Mission Impossible? Is that like what's that from?
Yeah, there's
vibe-wise?
some. I think there's some Mission Impossible in there. Well, this one we actually had to come back and add some of the Congo. Remember, because
And what
that
is
was
it,
an
Congo
element
or
of
bongo?
Junior.
Oh, you know what?
It was an element of Junior's earlier score that we wanted to carry through.
It's actually
in
the
this last-
bongo.
Bongo,
Kunga is
thank you.
actually the bigger one. Oh, I hope I got that right. So, and it's just that, that Mission Impossible, that reminiscent of action from a couple decades ago, with the newer beats going on underneath it.
Yeah.
And then when we cut back to the city, and you wanted a little more reference to this, we dropped in that Congo again.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like this '70s stuff, this reminds me of like '70s cop shows. And,
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like it has that
Yeah.
vibe while being modern. It's like it's both.
Yeah, yeah.
This is Archie's like one of his first times to really
Yeah, get in on the action.
jump
yeah,
in and
exactly.
actually be the guy, right?
Yeah, he rode his little scooter to a scene once, but quickly got grabbed up by the rumor weed.
Oh no, not that.
So-
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, so much for the helicopter.
On your own now.
That didn't hold him very long.
Oh, I
Okay,
love
here it comes.
this.
Funny. I don't know why this is funny, but it's funny every time we watch it.
The early bird gets the worm.
It's just so funny.
Or I guess you could say the early worm gets the bird on that one.
I know
'cause
it's
he-
funny
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's voluntarily.
Yeah.
All right, this is awesome.
Yeah, speaking
That.
of worm, he's got his nice
Inchworm.
worm look. Yep.
Such a great
Little squeak on that.
The thermostat. He's confused by it at first.
Well, he's pondering. He gets a great idea.
I'll just turn the heat.
Just turn the heat up. Yeah. And you wonder why a supervillain keeps a thermostat, right on the wall if he wants to keep it cold.
Exactly.
Oh, is it hot in here to you? What do you think, Alfred? Is it too toasty?
It's funny, now in the digital age with high resolution and high definition, the same, the things that you're used to seeing in shows like scan lines on monitors, it's like you still want to
Right.
put that because, otherwise it just looks like there's a hole in the wall, it doesn't look like there's a monitor
Well,
up there.
in the early stuff we saw, there was no treatment on that.
Yeah.
On his huge screen monitor.
Yeah.
And it did look like it was just a hole.
Yeah, it was just a hole. And in the world today, you'd have a big high definition monitor, and it would,
Yep.
it'd be nice and crystal clear. But
Thank
I find we had to add those kind of SCAD lines.
And there he goes.
And you did the little kung fu whistle in there too. You just used.
Oh
your
yeah,
little-
we went back. You were like, I need something kung fu-y there, and we went back and forth with a couple different instruments. And yeah, I picked up some actually Irish whistles.
Yeah, Irish
They
whistles
work for
the kung
many
fu.
ethnicities.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a little bit of a late addition to make sure we had a clear water thing. I know we kind of worked through that because the snow itself was like, well, it's water, but it's snow, and we had to kind of work
Yeah,
through that.
yeah.
That actually came out really well with him splashing in the head.
Splashing on
and
the head, yeah.
Clear, you're in trouble.
Yeah. At first we were going to try to land him in sort of slushy snow, but it just wasn't as clear as just dropping straight up water on his head.
Just douse him like a dunk.
Yeah.
This is a funny bit, right? He slammed the brakes too hard. He didn't have stability control on the Penguin.
That's right, yeah. It's a new
Very
vehicle
dangerous.
for him. He's used to driving the egg.
What do I do?
It's funny, you know, we did this penguin that, you know, which was the next step up from the egg, you know, that the grow on the super, or the villain's, you know, vehicle. But, you know, the egg floated and flew fast, and the penguin just walked slowly, you know, so it's sort of a downgrade as far as villain vehicles go.
Bigger than you.
I love this heroic moment, Kurt.
Yeah, that was
Right
fun.
here,
to,
when it just goes, kind of leaves us hanging a little bit after all that action and intensity.
What could have happened? I believe
It's this little
Junior has
pause.
found a
I just love all the league like half stuck in
Half
ice.
stuck, and they're like, and we're back in. And that was like a decided switch there, Kurt, because
I think
now
originally,
we're kind of into this like really intense.
yeah, and it was really. I was telling Mike this. There were moments where I had more score in there, and we actually pulled some of it out, and it worked perfectly to give a balance and to let the sound effects take over. And here we get the final theme, League of Incredible Vegetables. You hear that throughout the show at times. Every once in a while, you'll hear maybe 2 or 3 times I use the Larry Boy, ha 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 ha, da da da. That's just hidden in there a few times when we see Larry Boy. But it's this, the League of Incredible Vegetables, which started with Mike's little hook. He contacted Newsboys, so it's kind of in their song, and then the choir sings it at the beginning there, and now we're hearing it at the heroic moments. So that's definitely our theme through the show.
Hey, everybody's fine. See, nobody was hurt.
Yep.
Just put on pause for a little bit.
So adorable when they're rescued.
Oh,
Yeah, you know the penguins are going to reform. They'll be
Punchline.
good.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love this line from there.
I'm not so scary. Can we hang out some now?
You're kind of going to jail.
Kind of going to jail. Doesn't want to be too harsh.
There
That's
goes
right.
Scooter. Okay, that article, you can pause that if you want to, was
Yeah.
actually fully written. Mike, you were telling me this.
Oh, yeah. Henna here at the office, you know, typed it all up. Well, Ron Eddy did the design on it, and he asked Henna to help him out, and she just sort of wrote a whole story, you
The
know.
whole thing,
put
yeah.
on
So
her
it's not
yearbook
fake
hat.
lettering like you see in every other movie?
No.
no.
Wow.
There's the whole story in there.
I love this pose here of the whole league right
Yeah.
there.
Junior
It's wonderful.
Oh, you know what's?
so funny.
Oh, I was gonna mention here. I had to be really careful in this scene right here. The Larry Boy is the Larry Mobile is so huge compared to the other vehicles that we really had to kind of show it but not show it, you know, because it just dwarfed everything else.
Yeah,
so
it's
we
really
kind of set it
large.
over to the side, and you see it a little bit here. It's like when the camera pulls out and you see that compared to everything else. Like, wow, Larry's got a big ride.
His is multifunction.
That's right.
It can fly, it can go
That's
to the
right.
ground.
But here goes Junior and Escape.
Get a little taste of the song.
That's right.
I love it. The food fight, Vegemite. Are those your lyrics, Mike?
Yeah, I got to. That's my first Newsboys song. That was very exciting for me. So Seth and I worked together. He did the music, and then you know I wrote the lyrics. So.
This is one of the funniest countertops I have seen in a long time. Bob just being totally crazy.
Oh yeah, it's like Bob gets a sudden burst of testosterone after playing a superhero for the first time.
You could take
I know you're taller, but I have a low center of gravity.
so good.
Yeah.
I love seeing Bob in an alter ego on the countertop. You know, because so
Yeah.
often we get back to the countertop and Bob is just Bob.
Yeah,
You know, So getting it to carry over much like Larry's done for a long time.
Right. And it works because we have Alfred, because Alfred's teaching chops are, nearly equal to Bob's.
Yeah. Hey,
So-
Kurt, so in a second here, we'll have the What We Have Learned song.
Yes.
And we finally have unearthed I think all the stems from that. And so on this particular release, we mixed it in 7.1 surround. And so the is all the way around us
You
now.
hear it very
It's really
clearly.
quite lovely.
I still remember that. That was Phil 20 years ago doing his cheeks. Boop, boop.
It's when Bobby
Really?
McFerrin was big.
Yeah.
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 I was like, wow, he does that well.
And
Yep.
write this down, kids. It's the first time you'll ever see Bob happy about that song.
That's right. Yeah.
We even put the cool like superhero thing on the verse.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel afraid, you can put your trust in God.
And when you realize that God is bigger than
Mike, I just had this conversation last night.
will help you to not feel
This conversation with one of my daughters who was had a couple nights of scary dreams
Oh, wow.
and talking about putting her trust in God, and it was
Oh,
really
that's awesome.
really good conversation.
That's
very
great.
fresh.
Well, I do think it really is this, stuff that my kids deal with that. My daughter not so much anymore, but my son, who's still, he's 10, he still gets that. So I think it's going to be really good to have for kids.
This comic page is all Mr. Ron Eddy.
Yeah, Ron.
I hadn't even seen that.
David
yet. That's
Watson
amazing.
did the fantastic motion stuff on it.
Uh-huh.
So cool.
Ooh, there you are, Chris. J. Chris Wall.
Jacob Wallace.
Yeah.
Have you
Nicely
always been
done.
J. Chris?
Yeah,
Oh, look
well,
at
my first
you
name's
over there.
James, so
Hey, they misspelled my name. No, they didn't.
that's funny.
So here we go with our fear dar. Yeah, so it's fun kind of coming up with our biggest fears per per department. So screaming and
So
growling.
who's afraid of a microphone?
Well, what we do
The
is we
voice
have
performers.
an icon that kind of describes each of the areas. Like this is a light bulb for the idea of scripting and a pencil for visual development. So it's fun trying to come up with what our icons and what our biggest fears would be. So
Great job, John Waba.
yep.
Tight show.
Software updates are the bane of
Preach
editorial.
that, brother. Power cuts. That actually is this issue. They've had all through production. I think it happened at least 2 or 3 times in this one where they had a power outage and literally production would come to a stop. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Unfortunately. So these fears got recommended by. We actually sent them over and said, "Hey guys, for your departments over there in New Zealand, give us some." And they had no problem pulling up.
That's right. Well, I like Octopus with Lasso. That was animations. It was
Yeah.
great.
Beautiful
FX is
show.
no FX.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we talked about this last week, Mike, but this is Mike and myself's first show that I get to produce with Mike on.
Yeah, we've been working together for how many? Like 8
8
years.
years, yeah.
8 years. Yeah. So and we've always we've never worked
Crossing
together in a
paths,
full.
yeah, and we've done compilations together, but we've
Yeah.
never done a full show.
Yeah.
Well, you've
Okay.
always kind of ignored each other passing in the hallway,
Well,
too.
there's
So
that,
is there
Kurt.
anything
You
there?
had to bring that up, but
Yeah, but it was
'cause
great
when we-
working with you. It was
yeah.
a fun show to work with you with on.
likewise.
There were so many prepositions in there that I just
I don't-
got all
yeah.
jumbled around.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, likewise, great show, man. And Kurt, amazing job. I was, to be honest, knowing these shows are fast now, how fast you'd have to develop this huge score and soundscape, and it just turned out awesome.
There were
So,
times
thank
I
you.
told Mike, look, I'm going to put a lot into this, but we're not going to have a lot of time to redo anything.
That's right.
First take.
Yeah, I hope
Oh,
you
and
like
then
this.
just having the newsboys on this is just great. I
So
mean,
cool.
Yeah, I remember when Michael Tate, laid down his tracks after the demo was
Yeah.
done, and just thinking, man, this is just so good. He just did such a great job singing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially because the prior track had been Scooter, and it was weird.
yeah, League of Incredible Vegetables.
Just not the same sort of
That's right.
punch.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the commentary, and we'll see you next
Kurt,
time.
thanks for coming.
This was fun. Let's talk some more about the music. How much time do we have?
Yeah, just till Bob pops through that D.
Till he pops to the D, and then you're done.
Yeah.
You
there
can
go.
finish out your last
Eyes
bit of
up.
score.
Okay,
Pop.
I don't hear
There
any
it is.
music, though.
Okay, well,
Here comes.
I think.
Oh, there we go.
All right. See you guys.
Hello, this is Brian Roberts. I'm the director of this episode of VeggieTales, and I'm going to do a commentary here with 2 friends of mine. The first, who needs no introduction, Mr. Mike Naraki.
Hello, everyone. I kind of do because I
Well-
don't, it's like
It just said
you
on screen created by.
Hold
you.
on, I haven't introduced you yet.
I'm the voice.
You shh shh shh.
You might know Mike as the voice of Larry the Cucumber.
Hello.
And also the co-creator of VeggieTales, and he also did some writing on this show, which was great. And we also have our producer, Mr. Chris Wall.
Hello, everyone.
And Chris and Mike and I all work together to help make this show, and we're going to talk about it. What do we have to say about it, guys?
Well, this is kind of a, I know, Mike, we can talk kind of broadly speaking. This was the first time that we looked at this idea of these, nursery rhyme, Mother Goose type stories, and how some of those fit against different biblical parables that we love, that might be shorter or may not be, veggie sensible. And so this was kind of our first run at making two story segments that are like that. And
yeah, and I do think we kind of visited that a little bit in Wizard of Oz, and then also in Pistachio, where we overlaid a biblical parable with a
known story,
with a known story, and see how they mashed up. And so, wanted to do that here more in a nursery rhyme fashion, and I think it worked really well in both cases. And it was the story of the two builders, and then also the parable of the Good Samaritan.
Can I just say I want a plush toy of Larry dressed as a gingerbread man?
And I'll just say right off
is
here,
so cute.
Brian, this is phenomenal. Brian had the idea that the characters would dress in these costumes, for this, and did some early sketches on these, and they're just fantastic.
Well, I mean, we'll get a little bit more to that specifically on the Humpty Dumpty segment. But when I first read the script, when I was brought on to direct it, I looked at it and I was like, okay, how are we supposed to do Bob as an egg? Like, if he's an egg, then he's not Bob. So, I was looking for a way to make him fully egg and fully Bob.
Yep.
Wow, that's very theological.
So, which is, again, branching out from the idea that he's called a vegetable, but he's actually a fruit, and now
he's an egg.
He's an egg, yeah. It's deep.
There's no boundaries in this world.
We just keep going deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
The goose is new, correct?
Oh, yeah, brand new.
all new.
From Cedric Honstedt designed that goose and did a great job.
Who did some really nice crumb tracking on this show.
They did.
There's just very
The
nice.
continuity was really hard, keeping it shot to shot. But
Yeah.
if you watch it carefully, kids, you'll see.
That basket actually is from "Twas the Night Before Easter."
Oh yeah. And is that from Abe and the Amazing Promise? Bob's little hat and cane there.
No, that's
Similar.
That's new too. Okay.
Sand and sandal stuff. And then here we go. A shot down the countertop. We don't do these very often.
No,
and I
we
always
don't-
get excited
yeah.
when you do. My wife reacted to, we have a shot coming up where we see kind of towards the end of the countertop. Oh, I didn't know I see this part very often.
Oh, in Tooth Day.
Hand tooth day.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a kind of a classic setup here where Bob and Larry both have an angle, that they want to go for, and they end up combining them in order to make a show. It's funny that they never plan ahead. they always come to the countertop
Spur
and
of
just
the
kind
moment.
of wing it.
That's right. It's all
So
improv.
we have the fantastic vocal performance from Trevor Duvall, who we first worked with on 321 Penguins.
He's the narrator here who becomes Old Man
Yeah,
Jones.
yeah, yeah.
Right,
He's Zigil, right? Zigil on
And
321.
then,
No, he's not. He's not.
another one of the characters. He was a tertiary character, but
Right.
Okay.
and then brought him in for Pistachio to play one of the brothers.
One of the
And he
Italian
was actually
brothers.
two of them.
Yeah. So then we really wanted that great northeastern sound here, and he was available and jumped in with us.
That like a nor'easter.
Like a nor'easter.
think that's the same
He
thing.
blew in.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Here come Bob and Larry and Lunt on their amazing little building machines. I guess you would call that construction equipment. Building machines.
Yeah.
It's the thing.
These were great. They were in the script. They actually were originally envisioned as like these really multi-purpose kind of robotic vehicles, but we simplified that down into a forklift, a bulldozer, and a crane, which just for the sake of simplicity of production.
Speaking of simplicity, you made a comment during our mix that I did not know about the sound design that Adam Frick did for those vehicles.
Yes. Yeah, because they each have this kind of distinctive voice of their little engines. And the majority of those were done by Adam rubbing various things against the spinning blades of a fan.
Oh, just like grade
playing
school when you put a
cards.
playing card against your spokes.
Exactly.
Like playing cards and plastic spoons and things like that.
And then different speeds, pop, 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 pop. So when you listen to them now, you can totally hear that. But
Yeah.
Hey, that's you, Chris. Chris did the voice of the farmer there. Did a great job.
here it comes.
Oh, by the way, Mike's doing the voice of Larry.
Yeah, I'm the Larry.
So let's talk about the sticks, straw, and bricks from a storytelling. That was something that I know, Brian, you really wrestled around with. Maybe kind of give a initial idea on how we were approaching this.
Well, I mean, right. There's a lot of layers to this story. Obviously, it's the three little pigs, but the pigs aren't actually the ones building the houses. We've got our three builders, Bob Lunt and Larry. And the lesson of the story is that you need to build on a firm foundation. That's our biblical lesson of the story. And so originally we had the house that stood was the brick house, just like it is in the Three Little Pigs. But
You and Todd kind of pitched something
yeah,
different
Todd
there.
Carter, the story artist, and I felt really strongly that was kind of sending a mixed message, because the point of the story is you need to build on a firm foundation, whereas the point of Three Little Pigs is you need to build with good materials. And so we felt like it was kind of crossing the lesson in order.
I remember in development we struggled with that a lot. The whole idea of building with solid stuff versus building on a firm foundation, and it got a little muddy.
And the truth is, I mean, there's nothing wrong with building with wood. You can build great things out of wood as
Yeah.
long as you build on a firm foundation. So Todd and I kind of did this fairly late switch where the house that stood ends up being the house made out of wood. And the brick house actually gets washed away with the house made out of straw.
And all
by
because of
Wolf
the
River.
foundation, which obviously is what we're trying to reinforce.
Correct.
And and that was nice too, because it just put a nice little twist on the story. It wasn't the expected thing, which is really nice.
It's always nice to twist the story. Here we see Old Man Zucchini for the first time.
Yep. Three Little Pigs. Those guys were introduced on a silly song. Mike, was that on?
Yeah, Pigs and Wigs, Pigs with Wigs. Yeah. That was on. Was that on Popstar?
It was on Princess and the Pop
Yeah.
Star.
That's right.
Yeah. So we did the pigs. I think the voicing we changed a little bit.
Oh yeah, we changed the voices a lot. Although it was still like Yumi, and I think Kurt was the third one in the silly song.
Yeah, but we decided to do kind of a Miss Piggy-like character.
Right, which was done by Marin Miller, who also does the voice of Miss Minchin, who you originally saw in the Penniless Princess.
Yes. And she. This was so fun exploring that character. Of the pig, because we had an idea coming into the booth what we wanted out of it, kind of a little bit of the West Coast California pig, and then she stepped in. And
I think I described
went
her
all over the place.
Actually, I think I described her as a Southern soccer mom.
Yeah,
to Marin.
she brought
And is that who Marim is actually?
No, not at all.
No.
she's totally
Not
outside
in
of
any
that.
way. But she just, and she just started doing this voice that was like, "Yep, that's it. You got it."
It was so outlandish. There's the Master Builder's Handbook. That even became a place of consternation a little bit in the story, because we wanted to set up that it was important, but we weren't saying that it was any sort of, it's not the Bible.
Right, yeah, because there were these undercurrents of like the Master Builder's Handbook is the Bible and Old Man Zucchini is God. And so we tried to abate that as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because the principles of the Master Builder Handbook are true, but it is not the Bible.
This script is a new writer.
I love that concrete
for
there, by
us.
the way.
Yeah, that's some nice
pouring
pour.
out of the.
Yeah.
This
the
is
mixer.
this script was written here by Corey Edwards, who's an old friend, and he
An old friend of Chris's, and a new friend of Mike's.
new friend of ours. And he actually wrote this song as well, and contributed. So great script, really enjoyed working with him, and then this song just really came alive. And I love, I know Brian, you worked with Kurt on this, but I love all the instrumentation choices as you move from
Instruments,
builder to builder.
toys, whistles. Yeah, Kurt used his entire what's it called? This entire range of wacky instruments in his office,
which is
in his
robust.
studio. Yeah, there's a definite distinctive sound to each of the builders, and man, Kurt just did a great job sequencing this song. I love it. And Corey did a great job writing it. Mike and Phil did a great job performing it.
It's great jobs all around.
Just good job. Hand claps.
I'm going to do my Taylor Swift awards acceptance impersonation.
Pull that out. We also got to have back some really fun concept artists that joined here. I know Chuck Vollmer did a fair amount of work in the.
He did some of the color work.
And
Michael Spooner was a big
Michael
help
Spooner did location
in the
too.
location design. And then Tim Hodge also helped with the location art on this one.
What I liked about the two worlds here on this story and then the next one is just the compactness of the towns. They just feel really really cozy and simple, but they do everything that they need to do in the course of the story.
Often we try to just do little sections, and so characters can't move freely from one part of a town to another because we just do this little part or that little part. It was fun to kind of do a whole town. Although we had to simplify it quite a bit from the original script because in the script it described like whole city blocks and like entire neighborhoods full of houses, and so I had Todd and I really simplified it down into they're building model homes, and so there's no other houses, there's no other neighborhoods. The other thing that did is it helped make it not feel like there was so much at risk during the flood, because we didn't want it to feel like, oh gosh, this whole town got wiped out by this horrible,
it's just
awful flood.
It's a new urbanism development right by a dam,
right?
And so it's just at the start of it.
Yeah,
had a couple shops, a couple houses.
Well, we even simplified the way that the flood took over the town. You'll notice, like, you don't actually see it flooding the city block. It just kind of floods the neighborhoods. The city block is raised a bit.
Yeah.
Just because we were trying to avoid making it seem like it was this catastrophic thing that wiped out an entire city.
Here's Miss Minchin from The Penniless Princess.
One of our new characters.
And again, Miss Marin Miller did this fantastic voice.
Great joke there.
Mark Steele also did some writing, and I think he did a comedy pass here. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
A number of these jokes are his.
Yeah.
All right, you can pause here if you want. There's some funny stuff here. This is actually a bit of text from an old show segment, the George Mueller segment. And that text was written by one of our concept artists at the time, Joe Spatterford. And it's funny. It's really funny.
Over beefy bricks. Bob's house isn't even finished yet. You should see mine. I got a lot of cool stuff in
Love this argument between Lunt and Larry.
I remember this also in story development, just this whole idea of the Builder of the Year award and just the layers. We had just a number of different story layers that felt like, okay, just trying to consider whether to keep them or not, or whether to thin them out or make it less. But I think this one ended up working in the end because it gave us sort of a ticking clock element to their
for a long
motivation.
time, we had a mayor, remember, pushing all this, and he was negotiating all this. And then the story got simplified as we worked through it to kind of get it where we needed it. And then the character talking to the narrator.
Classic.
Yes, it would be.
But of course, Bob doesn't actually notice that the narrator is also Old Man Zucchini.
All right, so I am a car guy, love cars, and I wore Adam out.
Adam Frick is our sound designer.
Because it's just this classic roadster, and he had initially given us a pitch on sound effects, and it was clearly a modern car. And I said, yeah, Adam, we got to get a sound in here, And I actually sent him some reference on what they should be, and he did a nice job. He actually put up with my persnicketyness. So, kids, that's the sound that car should make.
Were you talking about like the new electric cars that actually use fake car
Yes,
sounds,
exactly.
In them to make them feel
Make
like
them
real
feel
cars?
like you're actually doing something when you push the pedal down.
Yep.
All right, so whose idea was this chase sequence, Brian?
Well,
Kind of your classic.
it is.
Looney
It
Tunes
was.
chase.
It was certainly suggested by the script, but it had a much different form in the script. Most of it happened through the streets of the city. But when we simplified the city down to just be that one little block of 4 buildings, we didn't really have room for the full chase that we needed to.
Here too.
And so what we did is we actually expanded the inside of the building supply headquarters or building supply store, so that they would have room to kind of chase around inside there back and forth. And then once they broke out of there, they could then chase down the streets of the city. Although you'll notice that once we get to the city, they go on much further than you could actually go in that four building long block.
Oh, well, it's just like Flintstones,
It's total
Flintstones
cartoon.
and Scooby-Doo
Yeah.
all mixed together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called cartoon logic.
Cartoon logic, exactly.
Yes.
So you notice like there's 4 buildings, but yet they go past 15 buildings every shot.
This is a great bit here.
15 of the same buildings.
This takes a while to build up, but it's totally worth it, I think.
With the clown gag.
The clown
This is
gag.
actually really nice texturing by Hoo-Hoo, just the way the flower lays on his face and the paint and everything. It's great stuff.
Fantastic. Yeah, so there's your big joke with the clown. It's actually a joke we did back in, remember, in Minnesota Cuke and Noah's Umbrella.
Oh, that's right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when
We
he
did
fell
a
down the hill.
similar clown joke there.
Well, and also, I mean, I remember way back at Star at Christmas with going through remember
Oh, yeah.
driving through the pause rocket cycle, went through the bank and the baker and all that kind of stuff. So.
This was Brian when we first used, we look at the water test that we first sent along,
Yeah.
and it was like Perfect Storm, the movie.
I frustrated our effects artists a bit here
Yeah.
because they're capable of making this water extremely realistic and very, just very, very real and very aggressive in the way that it takes over these buildings. And I just had to keep pulling them back, like, no, softer, smoother, gentler, less
It
realistic.
looks very clean too. It doesn't look like that kind of the runoff water that you would get in a
Exactly.
flood.
Yeah, so the simplicity of it was designed to try to make it less scary, even though they were capable of making it much more kind of
Well,
elaborate,
it's
realistic.
same crew that did the pistachio water, which was
Yes, exactly.
very
Fantastic.
aggressive and intense and beautiful too.
By the way, I wanted to note, I love all these percentage jokes that Larry throws out.
But 50% of all floods are started by water.
So
Like, what else would they be started by?
Little catch there, of course, his little floating building there.
The gazebo.
It was not made of brick as it floated by.
No, what I think is that the brick has already fallen off.
Oh,
That's
There
how
you go.
I.
Brian always has a fix. Kids, I want you to know.
In
we work
my
hard on
mind.
Have you
these
guys
shows.
ever been to
Brian
the Corn
always has a
Palace
fix.
in South Dakota?
No, have missed the Corn Palace.
So the Corn Palace, you see it coming for miles, visit the Corn Palace, so we were driving out there. So we thought, let's go to the Corn Palace. Well, it turns out that the Corn Palace is pretty much made with brick with corn glued to it. And it doesn't take long to figure that out.
That's awesome.
But so it was sort of your
Hey,
opposite
you see
Corn
that,
Palace.
kids? We actually had clapping in the VeggieTales shows with characters that can do that.
Who was clapping?
The
The
pigs.
pigs.
Oh, the pigs. Oh, yeah.
They've got
Yeah, the little
hooves.
hooves.
Normally
yeah,
when we do
the
clapping, we
cloppity-clop.
can't show.
I think
who's
that's called
clapping.
clopping.
Yeah, the
Clapping.
pigs underwent a big change in development because originally they were written just to kind of oink around until the very end when they would say "not by the hair of my chinny chin chin." I think was their only line of dialogue. And when we first put the show together in story reel, we just felt like, man, these pigs are here and they're just not doing anything. So Mike, that was one of your rewrites, was to give the pigs personality,
Yeah.
and they just turned out so funny. I dressed up as that hipster pig for
Oh,
Halloween.
yeah. You look
Yes,
pretty.
you did.
You look pretty sweet in that. Had a tail and everything.
I did.
And here comes a little reprise on the
Let's
song.
get to it, boys.
We're building on.
Lovely.
Did you guys use the same road from League of Incredible Vegetables?
No, I think it's New Road.
It's a new road. Because we worked a while to get that the asphalt just
Oh,
right.
well, maybe I benefited.
It might have
from that.
benefited from
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Both the beginning and ending Cabbageville songs were sung by our fantastic Big Idea Choir.
Yeah, the Big Idea Choir.
Good job, Big Idea Choir. It's fun having. There was a long period of time where we didn't have any female voices in our Big Idea Choir. There was not a single woman at the company who could sing. So it's nice to be able to have a nice mixed group choir now.
And
Mixed
now
chorale.
a fantastic silly song. Mike,
Silly songs with
set us up here.
Yes, well, it's been a while since Larry sung a song about a facial body part. Remember way back with
his lips.
with his lips, and then hairbrush before that, and so there weren't really many other. I mean, I could have done a nose song, I suppose, but so just decided to do a tooth song. and just what it would be like for Larry to celebrate the birth of his tooth. I know with our young kids it was a big deal when they got their first tooth, and then they're actually, my kids are at the age now. My daughter just lost her very last baby tooth. She's 14. She just lost her very last baby tooth. So teeth are a big deal for kids.
Well, and the idea that this being Larry's only tooth is kind of what drives the song. However, Mike, I had a shocking realization a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
What's that?
Shocking realization that this entire song is a
Veggie
sham.
fans, hang on to your hats here.
The song is a sham. Larry has a lower tooth.
Oh,
he has a lower tooth?
He does.
He certainly does.
I've witnessed it.
In Are You My Neighbor, show 3,
Yes.
when Larry tries to get the candy cane off of the candy bar off of his helmet,
Oh, yes.
he has a lower tooth that he tries to bite it off
that
with.
that was an unauthorized lower tooth, I'm afraid.
I mean,
It's
it
so
exists.
early, though. Brian and I could hardly refute it.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I'd already finished the song, so it's too late to go back and fix
you
it.
know how bad my memory is. I can never remember that.
Yeah, we pulled it up. We were looking at those helmets, and it was like, Brian goes, "Oh my gosh, there's a lower tooth."
He's got a lower tooth. It was a prosthetic.
It's a sham!
It was a prosthetic. It was actually it was a space age thing.
It was a computer generated.
Speaking of prosthetics, okay.
Oh,
So,
the teeth.
This
okay.
thing, and I just want to say right now, thank you to our fantastic production team
At Hoo
at Hoo Hoo that put up with.
the teeth
boy.
revisions.
Okay, so
I've-
you remember this first one when I went online and I got that they have those little
The Billy Bob teeth.
the Billy Bob teeth, So I did that. I did a Billy Bob teeth layover
Yeah.
of Bob and Larry, and
Mike's
it just looked really.
Mike's original idea was that it would be these crazy, scraggly, pointy, outy teeth, and Mike was convinced that would work, and I was convinced that would absolutely not work. So, I mean, I've been directing VeggieTales for probably 6 years now, and these teeth are the hardest thing I've ever worked on in 6 years, because everyone had all these ideas about what they could and couldn't be, and that they were, we did versions that people said were scary, or but then there were other versions we did that just weren't funny, and so it was.
I was in the scarier is funnier camp, But
it was just all this drama to get these teeth.
they
approved.
look very Aardman though at the end of the day, which is great. I love the Wallace and Gromit teeth.
I'm very happy with where they got to. I think they're the right balance of goofy and not scary.
Jeez, Gromit.
But they're still a tiny bit scary. But yeah, when I forgot that first render of all the teeth and they all look like zombie teeth.
And you showed me, and I was cracking up.
So here we are on to the Gooseville segment of the show.
This was fun. I love, Brian, at the beginning of this, we were, again, logistically, as Mike mentioned earlier, trying to figure out how to house all this action, and you had the idea of pushing it towards an old school kind of TV theatrical setting,
Yeah, making it feel like a TV set.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like this is the other side of the dam without the water.
Well, that was another challenge in this
one's
show.
drained.
Was 'cause we have,
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we
True.
flooded this town.
Unflooded this town.
Yeah, should have put a little creek through the middle and called it Wolf River.
Yeah, when one town flooded.
Yeah, so that was just a funny. Both of these segments were written and developed kind of independently of each other, but they both ended up centering around a large wall that gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's just this strange thing. So I had to figure out how to make these two towns look totally different while both involving a wall. And so, for the Great Wall Resort that's here in Gooseville, we had to decide, well, is it just like a piece of wall, that stands alone like a building, or, is it like a dam in the other section? And so what I decided is that it would be like this kind of Great Wall that surrounds them. And I imagine it protects them from the giants that live on the other side.
This is what you're imagining in
That's
your
what
little make-believe
that's
world
why
in
I
your
think
head.
they have a wall.
Outside of Bob and Larry, I think Junior's costume was the most successful here.
Yeah. Oh, and Brian Gall was another artist here. He helped.
That's right.
design a
Yeah,
lot of
he
the
did some
characters.
characters. And Junior is just adorable. I would love to see this as a
As a plush.
little plush, or even a costume for my kids to wear.
So would the costume be a Junior in a bear costume, or just your kid in a bear?
It'd be
costume?
expensive because yes, you'd have to dress like Junior first
You have to dress like Junior and then put a
to
bear
pull off the
costume.
full effect.
It's a mystery wrapped.
That's
in
why I
an
dressed
enigma.
up as the pig for Halloween.
I love. This is my cartoon nature, but I love when we do this kind of thing.
Like the list that goes on forever.
It goes on forever.
I feel like we could have pushed it even further. Like in retrospect, I wish we'd just made it ridiculously long.
Mr. Mayor,
or had a shot when you see the whole thing.
This song was written by Mark Steele, right?
That's correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of the couple songs
Yeah, with
we read here.
a little melodical help from
Before my
Kurt.
shell gets parted.
Is melodical a word?
It probably sounds like it could be.
Could use some help now.
Maybe without
So
without the
charming.
all, maybe just melodic.
Later.
There you go.
There you
So
go.
now we're about to introduce sheep. In my mind, I'll just tell you this: sheep are a hallmark of veggie.
Going all the way back to Dave and the Giant
Yeah.
Pickle.
Just funny comic bits that they do, which is all the vogue now. You know, with animated features to have non-speaking
It's true, Bo Peep
mass
sheep
characters
are
that do silly things. You know,
And today
And,
they all seem to
here
All
we
the
have
rage.
sheep.
Well,
There
and
they
really,
go.
I mean, getting back to, we talk about Aardman for the teeth. Back in the early days, that was complete inspiration from Wallace and Gromit. And the sheep and Wallace and Gromit. Yeah.
Back in
And
the
then
day.
the silent penguin.
I want
And
to
Ron
point
Trousers.
out Ermengarde here. This is her third appearance now. She's been in 3 of the last 4 shows. But she's Little Bo Peep, and she has this, in production we called it a Shantae.
Shantae, really?
Yeah, I had this idea
Is that a
that
ballet move?
I had this idea that because we couldn't see her feet, she didn't need to hop. That she could Shantae around whenever she would walk.
Is that a real word?
By the way,
Yeah,
the burritos
Shantae.
are so funny.
Shantae. Yeah, why are there burritos in the street?
I don't know, but it's funny. It rhymes.
Yeah.
So I love watching her
The thing is, she
scoot
doesn't.
around
You don't
without
get to see her do
hopping.
it that often. You have to watch for
No,
her.
it's
So
just a few little spots.
You can back up your DVD, kids, and watch that little segment. It's really adorable.
So precious.
As Mayor Dumpty rolled
Return here of Ellen from, she's been in several shows now, voiced by Carrie Pasapia, who also does a million other voices for us. A talented actress.
We worked with her for the
And
first time
there's
on
Mr.
the
Lumpkin,
Pirates
funny
Didn't Do Anything movie.
Right.
This was funny. So in production, in the boarding, we didn't have that many characters here. And when these first came out, Brian, if we were, in layout, the multiple kids of Mrs. Mother Hubbard just
Yeah,
didn't show up.
I had to keep adding kids in production. And it was always like this sheepish request. Like, Jackie Fu is our production coordinator, or
Producer.
who kind of, and I kept like having to say, I know I didn't ask for this earlier, but could I get
19
some,
and counting.
Could I get some extra peas in this shot?
More peas, please.
the whole idea is that she's the little woman who lives in the shoe and has all these kids, and yet we hardly ever saw the kids, and so Goldie just wasn't working. So we kept adding characters, and we
Mike,
actually
that's one of your best outfits there.
My emo Phillips Larry outfit.
I think you should have worn that for Halloween.
that would be cute.
I'll do that next year. My Halloween costume was lame, so lame this year.
Well, it was kind of overachieved last year.
Yeah, well, I was Gumby last year, which my son became Gumby this year. He wore Gumby to school.
I
and
heard he was a big hit.
He was mortified to wear it. He did not want to wear it, and then he wore it, and he was chased around all day and lifted
like
up
the
high.
hero of Halloween.
Yeah, we love Gumby. We love Gumby.
Hey, I just note that's another
The well?
fantastic performance from Laura Knightsling.
Well,
That's Jill.
in case your stapler fell down it.
Oh, that was Laura? That's
Yeah,
Jill?
that's Laura.
Oh, that's nice.
She did a nice job.
Leaving more neighbors in dismay.
Oh, ho, po, boo.
I don't think we've ever done a pink flamingo in VeggieTales
This one,
before.
Brian, you actually shared this with me just after Adam on this little routine here with the sheep. And kids, this is a fun one just to watch the sheep because he is so funny.
When Bob gets him,
So once he gets
Caught here.
captured, watch how he is just hilarious. And if you've ever watched a dog strain against a collar,
that's
this is
exactly
pretty
what
much
this
you're
feels
seeing.
like. Well,
See
I
how he
love
buckles down.
just as an animation geek,
Maybe you could
from
help
that
me
perspective,
find
it's so
some
entertaining because, getting kind of two characters interacting with a real sense of weight and tension between them is really hard. Man,
I also
the
love
sequence
Adam's
is just
sound
so
design of
great.
it. Tick-a-tick-a-tick-a-tick-a-tick,
Yeah.
you know, the little-
Of course, my tummy
So
is
good.
rumbling.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a little bit that Todd and I came up with in boarding because, Laura's just kind of going on and on. Talk.
Good information.
And I was like, man, we really need something else happening here other than her just talking.
Yeah, that's the challenge of all rhyme, in a film. Because while it's nice,
Notice
it's
the
lovely
picture
when
of-
you're being read to, but you just kind of have to do a lot of visual support when you're showing it.
If you go back and look at the door, you'll notice there's a picture of Humpty's mom
Don't worry,
above the
Mr.
door.
Mayor. It's just
Have you ever
me.
noticed that, Mike?
And a rest
No,
of the town.
I never
There's a
noticed
picture
that.
of a chicken.
Oh, I get it.
And you weren't around.
Yeah, is it a tomato in a chicken suit?
No, just a
No,
chicken.
just a regular old chicken.
What is it, Miss Muffet?
I need your help.
I don't know what's up with that enormous flower next to his door.
Forget about that. What about my front lawn?
Look at that. It's huge. It's the size of his face.
He uses some special
He's
fertilizer.
got Miracle Grow.
Cowbell joke.
With so many
Can't have too many cowbell jokes.
Yeah.
Miss Portia
Um,
continued to
I remember in recording the voices for this part, all the neighbors talking wasn't scripted. It was just in the script. It just said like ad lib angry dialogue,
Angry
and
mob.
so there's like 8 characters there, and so for 8 different actors, I had to say, okay, now in this part you're upset with the mayor and you want to get his attention, and so just kind of talk. And so it felt like it took forever to get through all that.
Well, as a writer, it's great, to just write that ad lib in there. But it comes back to bite me,
Yes.
like
As a
later
performer.
in the booth. I'm like, oh man, just give me something to go from.
Exactly.
But speaking of writer, I didn't mention Eric Newman,
Yep.
another new writer for us.
But another old friend of yours.
Yep. Went to school.
Boy, so if you want to write for VeggieTales, be an old friend of Chris Wall's.
That's how it works.
Well, actually, though, we started working with these guys with Mark Steele. I remember going into a meeting with Mark and Eric and Corey a couple years ago when we first started to work with these guys.
A couple of years ago.
yeah, back in
Yeah.
we did that. You guys did that Tulsa pitch.
Yep.
Yes, I'm looking for Goose.
The
Great Wall
elevator.
Vacation.
Tim Hodge designed the elevator, right?
He did. And Tim and I really struggled with how this would work because the mechanics of it were rather complicated.
And they don't make sense.
If you pay attention, it really doesn't make any sense at all. There's no logic or physical reality to this door, to the doors, and to any of it. But
This is one of those awkward silence moments that Veggie is kind of.
we
known
do it
for,
really well when you
know.
do it.
Like, this is a great one. My kids laughed out loud at this part. At the pause.
Remember, there was another one earlier, like just a few minutes before, that we actually cut
Yeah.
because we had 2 awkward pauses in a row, and it was one too many. You
Ah,
can't
first time we get the joke there.
stop and do nothing all that
Humpty
often.
Dumpty had a great.
Yeah, that's kind of the running gag.
So
of this
want to
part.
fix it.
You want to fix what?
You know, the rhyme. Because
Oh,
he's setting it
Humpty
up and,
Dumpty sat on a wall.
and it's gone.
Is that the same costume that Jimmy Gord had in
Penniless Princess.
Penniless Princess?
Yep.
Okay. I recognize that.
Our wardrobe, is often accessed. These actors like their same stuff.
When's
What
all the
happened?
hammocks, the tea, lemonade?
I don't know that we'll ever get to reuse the egg
Siesta
costume, though.
mariachis playing nap serenade.
We'll figure out something.
Sorry, sir, but it didn't
The Tiki Bar, was that a Tim Hodge?
Um,
You remember?
I don't remember where that came from. I feel like it might have been mentioned in the script.
What about napping?
But
Tim
Tim is
Hodge
definitely
has an
obsessed
affinity
with
for.
tiki of all
Yes.
kinds.
Yeah, he's a Hawaii fan.
All right, this is one of, again. Love this drop here. After
Oh,
it
I
closes
gotta
the
say, I'm a
door.
Hawaii fan too. It's not like I want to diss Hawaii because I
No.
really like. I
I would have
like
to say we're
Hawaii.
all Hawaii
Okay,
fans.
here it goes,
Yeah.
and now if you listen carefully, kids, in a little minute you're gonna hear him land.
Yeah.
It's a late.
Hear
gag.
Jimmy land a second later.
From all of the stress, he was finally free, which made Gooseville's Great Wall
All right,
the
here it
best
comes.
place to
We're gonna make the joke again.
And so Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great shawl. That his grandmother gave him for such an occasion. Who
By the
needs
way, in
all
case
those
you're wondering,
great
kids, if you
books?
have
So many
followed
used
along in our how to
would be
draws or
much
some of those
better
things,
helping just
sure you can
me.
imagine it's actually quite difficult to fit shawls and things like that
Baby
around
Bear was still
Bob.
being a kind-hearted
There's
fellow.
not a lot of room between his chin and the ground.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
always,
have to kind of stretch.
we're
him.
having that challenge right now on our Scottish episode that we're doing.
Because he needs a
with
kilt, right?
A kilt, yeah. So it's more like a diaper because he can't.
hard
If
to
he
get
has a
around him.
kilt on, there's just not enough space for him to move around.
Not
That's
Yeah.
gonna take a while, Bob.
I love this little bit where Bob wants to go swimming, and so he has to fill the pool bucket by bucket.
Yeah, it's a poor design on the location of that pump.
Well,
You should
it's-
get
I
it
mean-
closer to the pool.
Clearly, this resort was not built with the customer in mind.
It has been a very long time since I have looked through one of these observatory binoculars.
Boy, yeah. When was the last one I looked at
remember.
through? I think.
They have them at the zoo. I've used them at the zoo recently.
Oh, I did it at the Empire State Building, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not too long
I
ago.
just remember vividly being too short to ever reach them, and having to be held up by my parent to see
Uh-huh.
inside, and then you have to get your eyes just right. My eyes were too small, and I couldn't see through.
Yeah.
So,
Here's a funny little
my
production
frustration.
detail that those binoculars are actually rigged with an extra version of Bob's eyes on the end.
Yeah.
So in the model, it's not just like you're seeing Bob's eyes through the glass. It's like they actually modeled and rigged little eyes on the end of the binoculars that they could animate, which is just hilariously effective.
Yeah.
It really worked great.
Remember for the Pirates movie, when we were looking through a telescope, borrowed from Pirates of the Caribbean, it was a really cool kind of like a grimy, lensy look to it. We sort of copped for that film. But this is, I love the cartoony nature.
You may
of this movie.
recognize
hard.
the interior here of the Bear's home. Kids, we'll let that be a bit of trivia. Won't say what, just see if you can figure it out.
There was a really tricky kind of location design here to figure out how to make the town all fit together and still have Humpty Bob be able to see what he needed to see from the top of that wall. Because he needed to see Little Bo Peep's house, but we had to see inside the bear's house. But then later on, we have that big sequence where kind of the chain reaction happens with Little Miss Muffet and then Jack and Jill, and everything had to kind of fit together. So that was quite a bit of a challenge in the show, was to just figure out the physical layout to let all these things interweave the way they needed to.
Yeah, and I know, Brian, of course, this kind of show, particularly, you were trying to stage in a certain way, and so figuring out these angles, I know, got to be a little tricky.
It was tricky.
I think there's an undercurrent here, though, of Gooseville being a penitentiary.
The high wall.
Got the high wall with
looking
the
down.
view thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're all living inside a prison. They
Here
just
she
don't
goes.
know it.
She's- Oh, problems.
The bugs there, by the way, are what we call foreshadowing, because you wouldn't have a jar of bugs in someone's window unless you're planning to use that for something later, for those of you studying story structure.
I love how Junior kind of switches roles in my mind, because he's the mayor's assistant and he's so prominent, and now he's just a kid in the family,
Right.
and then he's about to come back out again. Oh dear.
That's nice glass cracking there.
So now we
Glass
are
crack?
Yeah.
setting off a massive series.
What was going on here? You
Yeah,
might have
what I call the
guessed
chain reaction
it
is
was
disaster.
an epic nursery rhyme mess.
Love the spiders.
This sequence was initially written by Eric this way, wasn't it? Actually had the little sequence of all the things that would happen
Oh, yeah.
as a
Yeah.
result.
Yep.
I remember it was so fun reading it, going, oh yes, oh of course that's how that would happen.
Yep.
Smashing all these stories together, which again, is really kind of on the outset. That was funny. Figuring out if we could do Larry's voice in slow mo,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and it did work.
I love this effect here of the barn going up in flames.
Yeah. There was quite a bit of discussion around how can we burn the barn and not make it look like the sheep are
In danger.
set ablaze, and it totally worked out. I love the choo-choo train there.
Yeah. Great sound design. Love these effects here of the wall getting
Now
destroyed.
he's actually fallen.
I have to apologize for something here.
Go ahead.
This
Here
joke.
it comes.
Right. Right there.
Fallen and I can't get
I still can't believe we actually did that.
That joke never gets old.
Oh, it does. It's so stale. I actually, at one point, I wanted to add on other 80s jokes to it, like other things that are just
Where's the
series of
beef?
them, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
help, I've fallen, and I can't get up. Where's the beef? I'm not going to pay a lot for that muffler.
Ancient Chinese secret. Huh?
588-2300. Like, just have him go on and on with all these jokes that are way too worn out. But, yeah. We
This
kept
little routine in ADR was, you talked about an ad-lib moment. This became
Right.
one of those for ADR. Andy Yowski was helping us on post and just trying to figure out all the different sound, like the little background arguments you're hearing through here.
Well, I mean, that was really
Who
a
says
story
what,
point
when,
because I was feeling like we needed to strengthen that idea of the town turning against Goldie.
Yes.
And so
Right here, yeah.
we'd recorded some of the dialogue, but I was like, man, we need these characters. We need to really show that they're all going after Goldie, so
Yeah, that she's
we
the
really
point of-
feel the town turning against her.
Yeah.
Without using torches and pitchforks.
Exactly.
Kind of. That's classic Ermi right there. So, back to myself.
Yeah, I want an Ermi plush in that Bo Peep outfit too.
That he was the cause
Uh-oh.
of poor Goldilocks'
Bob has
trouble.
realized.
He's being thoughtful.
Excuse me.
Such a sweet
As
moment
your
here.
mayor, I've made a lot of mistakes.
We had
That's-
a really, from a storytelling perspective and a lesson perspective, this show presented a tricky balance. Whereas Three Builders, we were fighting the presumptions that come along with telling a Three Little Pigs story. In this one, we were walking a fine line of what we didn't want to say was, it's not okay to take time for yourself. If you're overwhelmed with your life, we didn't want to say it's not okay to put a halt to things or to say no if you've got too many obligations. So what we really wanted to get across was, the problem in this town was not that Humpty wasn't helpful. The problem was that they were all selfish. And none of them were helpful. So they were all looking to one person to fix everything.
Yeah.
And so, the real fix for this community was for all of them to take responsibility and to help each other.
And these moments when we get to see them all as a cast, everybody standing together in all their great outfits, like right about here, are just charming as all get out.
Yeah.
They just look great.
I love that moment where they catch him.
Shell was quite cracked.
Yeah, that
His
was a great
friend
little
needed
surprise
help,
moment.
And he needed to act. Little Goldie.
Poor Gold.
We're sorry for being unkind.
Who wouldn't help that
Will
precious
you
girl?
forgive us, my
She's got
dear?
I like the secondary animation on her hair.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a nice
So
flow to
cute.
it.
Those little rolls.
Shirley Temple wig.
I remember talking in development about this kind of resolution, so we have the age-old story of Humpty fell, nobody could put him back together again. Well, he is busted up here, but how is he going to get back together, if you will?
Bondo.
And so the porridge Bondo, I thought was fantastic, but I know we had a lot of debate in development about whether this was believable
I
or
struggled
not.
with it. I thought it was a little weird.
Well, if you've ever left porridge in a bowl,
It gets pretty hard.
Yeah, it does.
Now, every time Humpty looks at the wall, he remembers his great disastrous
Just love this
fall
wide
with
shot of
no
this town.
one
Look
aware
at that.
till
Wouldn't
it
you love to
all
live there?
became
I would.
affair.
I love it.
Who
Love all the
knew
house
what it
designs.
meant to be a neighbor?
So
Who
cute.
cares?
When you get stuck in
This is another Mark Steele song. I remember getting the pitch from him on this, and just how fun a tongue twister it was,
Yeah.
and imagining how fun it was going to be for everybody to sing it.
Yep.
We did move it, though. Originally, it happened before the porridge.
Yeah, that's right.
But it felt like we were learning the lesson twice.
Yeah.
So we kind of let Humpty learn the lesson, help Goldie, and then wrap it all up with a song. Mike, I remember you have an old joke about tacked on Christian message. Of when songs at the end of stories overly spiritualize the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you don't have it in the story, then you might want to go back and look at that. Not just tacking on at the end.
Such a cute song. My friend Belinda Whittles.
Any idea what that's? I don't know. It was in Mark's.
It rhymes.
It's just a random name.
It was like
I'm
an
sure
insertion
somebody has
issue.
that name,
But it's just insertion to make sure we had the rhyme.
yeah.
Larry, you were right.
So see, kids, if you're stuck writing a rhyme, just make up someone's name.
And
It
there
works
you
for
go.
Dr.
Right.
Seuss.
That's right, exactly. All right, so we start to see Larry's dismembered costume here. Brian had the idea early on that, hey, we should have him start losing his arms, maybe and legs,
Well, no,
as the goose goes after him.
The idea was that when the goose comes after him, coming up here in a moment, that in order to redirect the goose, that he would rip his arm off and throw it off screen.
And I
get the
said,
goose to go off screen.
there's no way that's going to work, because any kid that
And I was
watches
like, sure
is
it
gonna
is. It's a
think-
costume.
Well, so my kids watched this first time and were very concerned about the missing part of Larry's head here.
So they might have. So you're saying they might have been bothered if he took his arm off?
He ripped his- yes, they would.
Oh,
You guys should. You
Good
could
choice, then.
You could have shown him like stepping into his gingerbread costume or something like that. Maybe. Well, it kind of looks baked on though, and that would have been a little bit more disturbing seeing Larry getting baked into his
and
costume.
then if he got out of his costume, he would be naked.
All right, so My wife got the joke on the first time he said duck. Knew
That we
where
were
it was
going for a duck.
Oh yeah,
hunt.
it's telegraphed. Yeah.
We worked so hard for that joke. Just from a physical perspective, the location.
How did your kids react to it? Did they not get it till they said goose?
It took till about the goose line.
Yeah.
Or maybe around here where he's done it like a couple times in a row.
Well, in the script, he was just supposed to have to duck under QWERTY, but QWERTY just isn't at the right
He's
height
not
for him to
duckable,
have to duck under it. So
Yeah.
that's why we added on these mother goose looking trees so that Larry would have something to duck under. But it just took forever to get that tree in the right spot and looking good.
God made you special.
Oh, I love it when Bob and Larry say that.
And he loves you very much. Bye.
I love your high pitched.
Yeah, that little squeal at the end.
Yay!
Well, there we go. That's a
Brian.
show. It was a good show. It goes by faster than 45 minutes. That's for sure. Well, that was a lot of fun.
I love these credits, designed by Ron Eddy and animated by David Watson.
Yes. Hey, there you are, Mark Steele.
Hello, Mark Steele, Rocky.
Hello. Yeah, those little cranes coming in and bulldozers over the graph paper. That's pretty cool.
Look at all those voices Phil does.
Busy man. Got to have him in town on this one. It was fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we record him long distance, and that just isn't as much fun as being there with him. Here's our big idea.
There's the big idea, crowd.
With a little bit of Paragon help too.
And a joke about Belinda Whittles.
Belinda Whittles.
Nobody's gonna get.
But it was worth it.
Well, we appreciate you guys hanging
I
out with
forgot
us.
to mention, Tim Moen.
I was going to wrap up.
No,
Tim
hold
Moen.
on, we got to
Yeah, he
so
helped
Tim
with
Moen, new concept guy, worked props for us on this. Designed the car.
And all the vehicles.
Yeah, and just did a great job. Brian, did you and Mike both meet him?
I met him at ICRS this year. Yeah, just this year. So
well, and what was
down
funny
in
is actually
Orlando.
I was familiar with him. Well, we had met him in Atlanta last year. But I was familiar with his blog because I really loved his work. And so he came up and introduced himself to us at Atlanta, yeah, whatever, a year and a half ago. And so when he introduced himself, I figured out later that I knew his blog and that he was somebody I wanted to work with. And so we reached out and he did great work.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Our great team from Hoo Hoo.
Yay, hoo-hoo.
Had a lot of fun this time.
And I don't think we killed anyone. I hope not.
No, this was a fun show.
Yeah, so I mean, in wrap up, what's kind of different about this show is that the two segments don't lead to the same conclusion as far as their lesson. So that was interesting to do something like that, where they each have kind of their own.
We're not,
topically they each have their own lesson and their own message. Right. And what holds them together is they're more thematically linked than topically linked.
Right. Yeah, because one is, two different parables, two different lessons, but they're both parables.
And, of course, enjoyed all the great post work here at Paragon, where we're recording this even right now.
This is super fancy from where we normally record these.
In the back of Mike's
like
Commander.
None of our knees are touching.
And it's not
which is
hot.
really nice.
Right. Yeah, and it's not burning up.
I've
We
got
have to
like a
turn the
nice
fan
cup
off
of
and-
tea right here, and I
all
have hidden the M&Ms underneath the table though,
Thank
so I
you.
wouldn't be tempted
Appreciate
to eat them during the thing. Because there's nothing worse I found, especially when I'm in the booth recording, than somebody chewing on M&Ms in my ear.
You
Yeah,
mean like me?
would that happen? Oh, yes, it would happen. Well, thanks, y'all. Really enjoyed making the show. Brian, always a pleasure working with you. Mike, thank you
Likewise.
for all of
All
your
right,
great
thanks, guys.
contributions.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next time.
We hope. Hey, there's still a little bit more.
Too late, kill time.
Anybody got a joke?
Kill time. I remember the first time this came up in a movie theater, people kept shouting, "It's in backwards! The film is in backwards!"
That's a good one.
Yes.
All right. Well, that carries us out to the end. Thanks, Mike. You saved us.
Hi, everybody. This is Todd Waterman.
And this is Phil Vischer.
And this is Phil Vischer. I thought you were going to go first. It sounded like you just went second.
Yeah, because you went first.
But
You clearly went first, so I clearly went second. What are we watching?
we're watching VeggieTales.
What's the name of the episode?
You wrote it. You got to tell me.
Christmas.
That's not
But
not the
look,
title.
I don't know what the title is. What's the title?
I know this is episode 102. This was originally supposed to be the second. This was supposed to be the second episode we were going to do after
look
the
at-
pilot.
Todd.
Yeah.
Todd Waterman is. I'm going to call you the showrunner. Is that okay? Can I call
Showrunner
you the
sounds good.
showrunner?
I'm going to call you Phil Vischer, the creator of VeggieTales,
Whatever.
and
Bob the Tomato.
executive producer and writer
Yeah,
of
okay,
this
sure.
episode.
Sure. Yeah, I wrote this episode. I will not dispute that.
Yes.
Everything else is up in the air. I'm just looking at the characters, and they look so much like themselves.
I'm happy you said that because the first test I showed you, you were very critical of Bob's mouth, and did I pass?
I think very is too extreme. I don't think
You're
that's the right adjective.
Professionally.
I think I was moderately concerned.
Constructively.
The new studio had nailed the mouths, but
Yeah.
they don't look like. So this is the first thing that's been produced since before. Can we talk about the Netflix show? There was VeggieTales on Netflix for 3 years worth, and the characters were very different, and they had irises, and some people thought they looked like they were insane. So this is the first show since then, and the characters have been put back the way God intended.
I like that.
Can we say that?
Absolutely.
This is when God pictured VeggieTales in his head, this is what he pictured.
Amen. And that was the goal, was to bring back the original look, the original characters.
Bring back, and the
That
personalities.
shot right there is my favorite scene in the whole film. When
Right there?
where Bob sipped the coffee.
Yeah,
that
that is a
little-
nice. It's a nice dry sip of coffee. That is a nice. What kind of coffee does Bob drink? Is it
It's
fancy
deep.
coffee, or is he a very plain coffee guy?
You're gonna have to ask Bob since you're the voice. You-
I think he's probably a pretty straight. He's a pretty straight coffee guy. He doesn't go no double 2-pump frappuccino. That's more Jimmy and Jerry. They're loading their coffee with sugar and other things. So I'm noticing Mr. Lunt. First of all, he doesn't have his hat on, and I never like that.
But
I never,
he did have the hat
He
on.
did.
He had to take
He
it
had the
off
hat
because
on.
he's gonna jump, and he doesn't want the hat to go flying.
Really? Is that the reason he took his hat off?
Yeah,
because
when
he's
he-
afraid of losing his hat
Of course.
inside in a closed environment.
That's a Panama straw, very expensive hat.
Yeah, and
The
he's had it
designer
since
hat he has on.
he's had it since 1995, I believe. So
Yeah.
that's going way back.
Up in 10 seconds. I hope it's real Christmassy.
Oh dear.
Hey, I want to talk about this theater really quick, though. Or what do you
The
what do you
theater
think?
is super nice.
That was I wanted to pick something that was anything but the Muppet
Yeah.
Theater influence.
Oh,
so
really?
I
Is
found a 17th century Baroque theater for the inspiration of.
Wait, this is based on a real, actual theater?
It is in
And did you take-
Czechoslovakia.
No way! And you took the whole design team over to Czechoslovakia so they could get the feel and the flavor and the aroma of the theater?
Absolutely. Google took us there. It was
It'd be
brilliant.
nice if Google provided smells, like on Street View. If there was also a smell view for everything.
I'm not going to touch that one.
Isn't that a good idea?
Yeah.
So they're singing the theme song. I've heard this before. Boy, have I heard this song.
And like I
before.
said earlier, that this was going to be the second episode. And we have a new song for the
A
actual
new theme
premiere.
song
Yeah,
for
but
the show. Because what's the name of the series, Todd?
the VeggieTales show.
Yeah, right. So it's not like the exact same show. It's a new version of VeggieTales.
That's right.
But it's better than all of the other new versions of VeggieTales because they actually asked the guys who made VeggieTales to be involved, and
Yeah.
that's like innovative.
You're having too much fun.
Mr. Bob, how do we start the show?
Always,
Yeah.
always. I think Junior looks good in a top hat. I've never seen him in a top hat.
Yeah. See, now Lunt has another hat on here, so that he-
Mr. Lunt kind of looks like Mr. Peanut
Yeah, he does a little bit.
in that tiny little top. I think he needs a bigger hat. And do you know, he lost this long ago. Archibald Asparagus originally had he not only had the bow tie, he had a red stripe around his whole body, which was the bow tie strap. and somewhere through history he lost that strap, and now he hasn't had it in years. So he just has to he has to glue his bow tie onto the front of his body for every show because no one can find his red strap.
Had I known, we could have put that strap back on.
You don't even know what to say about that, do you?
I'm going to move right on.
We could add it to a future
I had like
episode.
3 other thoughts too, but I think it's been lost now. I'm just going to have to go back to the picture
Did
here.
the microphone just sink into the stage?
It
that
did.
Just happen?
Yes.
Just like at the Oscars.
That's right. We just put that in.
One of the inspirations for this setup is the Muppet Show, which was one of my absolute favorite show when I was a kid, and I always thought it would be fun to put the Veggies in a theater and do more of a variety show. So this is really fun to see.
Well, and that was amazing as far as what?
Czech Republic. That's where our theater is from.
There you go. That just kind of slipped in there. That's a little trivia now for our fans down the road. But you and I, when we met and we were going to talk about the show back in, how long ago was it, in Chicago?
It was
and we both
2004.
And we were both on the same page, unknowingly, of wanting to do this new series in a theater. So
yeah, variety show, theater. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. So,
I thought that was
you
pretty
didn't
incredible.
make me do it, and I didn't make you do it this way. We both wanted to do it this way.
What do they call that?
The perfect marriage.
Mike was supposed to maybe be in on this. Maybe we shouldn't let him hear that.
Yeah, no, he'll be
He's gonna,
awfully grumpy.
I don't think he's going to get any dialogue in on this either because we're doing just too good.
He's not. If you can't show up for the recording, I mean, you can't complain. If you get the invitation and you don't go to the party, you can't say, "Hey, why aren't I in the pictures?"
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. So,
where'd you get the idea for these
This was
worms?
my idea. We should talk about this. I'm looking for things because I needed things that were like, okay, this is another way someone could think that Christmas would make you happy, make you and cheer you up. And the Christmas food, we all love Christmas food. So what would go wrong with Christmas food? And what would go wrong is someone like Archibald saying, let's experiment with other people's Christmas food that you aren't going to like. And my mother actually did this to us at Easter once, and it drove us all insane.
So there's some truth behind this, a personal history.
Yeah, so we had the whole family gathered for an Easter dinner, and my mom decided to make a Japanese stew to be experimental for Easter dinner. And we all hated it. And we said, Mom, it's Easter. Why are we having Japanese stew? If we don't have ham next year, we're never coming back to your house. So that was the first and last time she ever served us Japanese stew for Easter.
Well, I'm glad we're able to pay respect to that.
Thanks, Mom.
Through this skit. Thank you.
I was thinking, see,
Mom
that's not
Fisher.
actually what a sheep's head looks like when they cook it to eat it in Norway.
Yeah, but we couldn't do that and have that happen after. There's our audience.
There's the audience.
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the clapping, that kind of,
Yeah.
a bunch of clapping vegetables, that can be concerning.
With no hands and no
Do you think
arms.
anyone will notice? Maybe if we don't point it out, no one will notice.
Yeah, let's talk about
Madam
this.
Blueberry wasn't making contact with that cart that she was pushing.
Yeah.
She was pushing it like with magnetism or something.
Christmas tree?
There's the,
Oh, Larry's acting like Larry. This is so exciting.
Larry,
He's himself.
He
And
is.
Bob is getting cranky. Oh, I love Bob when he's cranky.
are we having this conversation?
I've been known to get cranky every now and then.
It has branches that hold up lights and
thoughts are running through my head with that.
That's a coat rack.
I got to say, the animation,
Looks
I
good.
think they nailed it.
Tough time.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Because when we did the mouths, we didn't have the technology to actually build the mouths into their bodies, so they were just cutouts. They
I know.
were just like paper cutouts. And these are actually built-in mouths into their geometry.
Right.
And it's very exciting.
Yeah, I can see a couple shots and frames here and there where the shapes could be a little cleaner now and then.
Yeah, well, if you couldn't, then that would really be something weird. 'Cause,
Yeah.
That's called production. I'm also not crazy about Pa Grape without a hat. He just
You know what?
looks like
He is
looks
going to
like a
have it.
grape.
He is going to have it. Yeah, can you imagine that?
are you putting the hat back in?
He will have it for subsequent episodes. So
Okay, that's good. He just couldn't find it this day.
There, Lunt's got his hat back on for you.
Yay, Lunt with his hat back on.
You know, I kind of went back and forth with that, with him having the hat inside. I think you respect him a little bit more this way. And it's a little more respectful without wearing the hat indoors.
The cheeseburger song, I believe, and Mike, if he would show up for these, could correct me on this. I believe the cheeseburger song was the first time we ever showed Mr. Lunt without his hat. And so they gave him a little bit of hair, and they gave him little wrinkles on his skin where his eyes belonged. But that was the first time he'd ever been without his hat, and then he immediately went back to having his hat all the time. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. I actually wasn't paying attention. I was looking in front of us. Whoops, I just hit my microphone.
That's okay. They can fix that in post.
They can fix. We fix everything
That's
in post.
Junior Asparagus. Junior Asparagus is back, Todd. Isn't that exciting?
Hey, who wrote the song for this, by the way?
He missed out on the Netflix drama. Junior was not there. He had a different voice for the whole thing. I believe I wrote this song.
I really like this number. And again, the performance is really good.
I can write simple, short songs. I cannot write complicated, long songs. It is not in my DNA.
Right.
So, when I write songs, this is what they look like.
Yeah. Well, what's key for me, I think that transpires over to the script, too. I love a simple story and with strong character development.
All my scripts are too long.
No,
all my scripts are too long. Every single one, you say it's probably 2 pages too long. It looks like it's about 2 pages too long.
This one was perfect.
That's because they wanted to turn it into a half-an-hour special, so it needed to be longer.
This one is a half-hour special. Our other episodes are 22 minutes.
This one is special. Special. Mm-hmm. It's special. Oh, I like Jimmy and Jerry, and I like that Jerry. We got the right attitude with Jerry, where he's always echoing Jimmy with little lines,
right?
Like a shadow. He's Jimmy's shadow.
Well,
it's the way it intended, way God meant it to be.
Yeah, I love these characters too and their costumes. Larry and Madame Blueberry and Lunt.
Yeah, and I'm glad Mr. Lunt's still in the show.
And we put a goatee on Larry just for you.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's just for me. Because I have a goatee? Is that why? Larry has a goatee because I have a... Is his goatee animated? Does it... Oh, it does? Oh, it's animated.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's just fantastic. Oh, and so is Lunt's goatee. It's animated. Because back in the day, we didn't have the technology. If we gave him facial hair, we had to be careful because the facial hair wouldn't move when their mouth moved because it was two separate pieces of animation. So their mouth could open up so wide that it would swallow up their facial hair. And that just looked terrible. But this is just
What do you think of the render with this with the new series?
I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Are they in some cases ray tracing their pupils?
Ray tracing.
Because I'm seeing reflections of things in their pupils occasionally, like when Junior's looking at the baby Jesus.
Yes. Yes.
Jesus pee.
We're not there yet.
I know we're not there yet. I'm just saying.
Don't confuse the audience. Let's keep it simple.
Was it a spoiler that Jesus is in this?
Yeah, no spoilers.
Nativity story.
Baby Jesus. Yeah. What was?
I'm sorry, we ruined it. How did you get Todd Waterman, showrunner extraordinaire? How did you get involved in this project? How did this happen? Because I didn't even know that you were born.
I was going to save the thank yous for the end, but it's I've got to say thanks to the TBN family, Matt and Lori Crouch, Tom Newman, who brought me to this project.
Okay. So it's the TBN guys that found you, and you were living under a bridge in L.A. with a sign that said "We'll animate for food."
Yeah, no, Phil. I can't believe you just said that.
That's just what I heard. I don't know if these things are true.
Let's just move on here. Okay. We got another song coming up, and all these songs.
Another song just
that
went
play
by.
endlessly in my head at 2 a.m. in the morning.
That's one of my favorites because it was a total of 8 seconds long?
Yeah.
I love to write 8-second songs.
All right.
Look, it's a whole flock of peas.
Do you want to comment about the peas?
Do you remember that band from the 1980s, Flock of Peas?
Yes, they're one of my favorites.
Yeah, they were great.
Great
that's
hair.
Jean-Claude and
great
Philippe.
Hair.
I was kind of hoping that we'd have a whole gazillion actual peas behind them singing, but I've been told that budgetary constraints reduced our pea count.
That's right. They just became a flat.
That's okay. It's a theater.
And then you have
Theaters
to
are
make.
full-
And then where
full
do
of
they go
flats.
after that? They just kind of disappear. What would I do with all those peas extras?
Yeah, no, peas are a limitless resource. French peas are kind of infinite.
Yeah.
And you can have as many or as few of them as you need at any given time. They're like clowns in a clown car. So the French peas, they have a little box that just says French peas on the front, or maybe it's a can. Maybe they're canned peas.
Mm-hmm.
And after a show, they all just jump back in there. Whether it's 2 or 1,000, it doesn't even matter. They occupy no space. They're like quarks.
How many?
And you put 'em back in
can
the
you slow
can.
down? I'm taking notes here for the next episode.
So I'm just telling you, for the future, Todd,
Mm-hmm.
if you need infinite peas, you can have infinite peas. You don't have to explain where they come
There's
from.
no logic behind it.
They're French peas. They defy logic. Yeah, and if people say why French peas, and then they haven't listened to other commentaries, they were inspired by the Frenchmen in Monty Python's The Holy Grail that were up on the wall yelling down. And when I did, I like this song. This is fun.
That was my first R-rated film, I think. Was it R-rated?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think we can talk about that.
Not on this show.
'Cause I don't want to know how old you were, because that might not be appropriate.
We'll
I don't
cut
want to
that
know who
out.
took you, because that might not be appropriate either. I just don't want to know. I
love
don't
the-
want to know.
I love the film, and I love that we
very
take some
funny.
of that flavor and make it family friendly and put it in these
And
episodes.
inject it into Christian children's videos,
That's
which is
it.
what the world was waiting for.
That's right.
So the peas are doing kind of a Cirque du Soleil routine. Did they have to rehearse that, or did it just come naturally to them?
We improvised this whole number.
Really?
Yeah.
You just said we're hanging you from wire. Just do whatever you want to do.
Correct.
Here's a trumpet.
Yeah.
See, that line makes me laugh when Jerry just says enthusiasm, and he doesn't say it all that enthusiastically.
Yeah. Bed at 8. They have to go to bed at 8, and the sheep complain.
Yeah, was that a complaint?
Yep.
That
We're
that
watching
bah?
this, by the way, with no audio, so this is all
You're
from
watching with
memory.
no audio?
Yeah.
I have audio.
Well, you're lucky.
I have audio on my end because I'm in Chicago and Todd is in L.A. Can you believe
That's
that?
right. I'm
And
here in
yet
Burbank.
It's like we're the home of the Johnny Carson show, live from Burbank. I remember that growing up.
You know what the best
Are you
part
where
about
Johnny
this
Carson was? Is that where you are right now in his old
A
studio?
little further away. Yes. A little
Are
further
there other
away.
places other than Johnny Carson's studio in Burbank?
Can we keep it about the VeggieTales show here?
Why is the curtain? The curtain's kind of seems a little bit drab. Why isn't the curtain?
I just didn't want a red curtain, and it is a little bit
You just
darker
didn't want
than
a
what
red
we
curtain.
didn't want a red curtain, and it's a little bit darker actually than I wanted to.
Oh, no. Oh, hang on.
There's still
What do you
time to
have
change
against-
that
What do you have against red
for next
curtains?
episodes. I
do you
told you
have
I didn't want to do anything that.
Oh, because of
What's
the Muppet
close-
Show. It's
that's
too
right.
Muppet Show. I
Too
get
Muppety.
it. I get it. But what about my idea of turning Bob the Tomato into a frog? You didn't like that idea either?
Not. I mean, there's
just-
potential. There's room for that.
It's not that close to the Muppet Show. I don't know. I don't know. That's so cute. That scene
I think
with the
this-
stable.
Yeah.
So cute. And
Actually,
the backgrounds.
that's what he just says. The backgrounds.
Who painted the backgrounds?
Guy Vasilovich, art director.
Guy Basilovich?
Yeah.
That's
gonna
a
be
great name.
He's going to be really happy I just brought his
He
name
could
to
be
this.
one of the characters in the show. Here comes Guy Basilovich.
Your
Come
voice-
on out, Guy.
The voice is actually kind of close to what he really sounds like, what you just did.
Wow. So he's
Minus
the
the
art director
Brooklyn
and he
did
did the flats? Did he do all the flats?
He
There's a
didn't
lot of
do-
flats.
Well, the artist did the flats. We have matte painters that do those things.
Oh, okay.
How do you like
But
getting
he-
to see the backstage occasionally while being
Yeah,
on
that's
stage?
kind of fun because it's like when you're watching a stand-up comedian on a Netflix special and they got a camera right on stage with them and they're shooting it from an angle and you can see backstage and you think, ooh, I feel like I'm on stage with them. I'm on stage with David Spade. This is so exciting.
That's right.
Or Jerry Seinfeld.
Everyone has a backstage pass.
Do you know what you should do, though, for one of the shows? When we're shooting kind of and seeing the backstage over their shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
should have two of the other characters back there get in a fist fight. Just backstage, like Jimmy and Jerry. Just get in a knockdown brawl.
I think
and
you wrote
it-
something like that in a later episode.
Did I?
Well, at least
Well, yeah, but not. It's not
Jerry's
like
getting
it's-
devoured by some type of man-eating
right.
plant.
That's an exciting episode. But this would be just in the background, just far off in the background. You'd hardly even notice it.
Leslie
And then
Farrell's
people would
not gonna
notice
like
and
me
they'd say,
saying that.
rewind, rewind that, rewind it. Did I just see what I thought I saw? That was amazing. Or you could have cameos like a celebrity walks through in the background, like Tom Cruise just walks through in the background. Could we do that?
Hey, this is a very intimate moment here, and you're making a lot of jokes.
You did. They're not listening to the commentary
Kurt
to feel
Heineke-
the weight of the intimate moments.
Kurt Heineke, that does our music for us, does a score.
Kurt Heineke, is he new or has he been around?
He's been
for a
around
while?
for a long time. He's part of the old
Really?
team. Anyway, he has an issue with that scene of Paul Grape hopping up across. He said it looks like he's walking on the moon, and I have to say he was kind of hopping a little bit high.
Well,
These are
sometimes
things I
the
have to live
veggies-
with for the rest of my life that you just can't go back in and change. You know how that is, Phil.
Yeah, I think the veggies can control their own buoyancy. So, they don't have to weigh as much in some scenes as in other scenes, and they can bounce much further and higher. And, oh, there he looked okay. That was good bouncing, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that was perfect bounce.
His color scheme, is that like the red and the blue? Are those the colors of Iran?
Absolutely
That's reminding
not.
me of a flag.
Absolutely not.
Okay. I don't know where Simeon was from. Well, that's really close.
No,
Iran is
I
very
think
close
it's
to-
West Ham United's football soccer
Oh,
team's
yeah, that
colors.
makes sense. Oh, I like this song.
It does if you're watching this in England. So
My wife really likes this song. She had to record it. It's funny, we recorded this song literally like 3 days ago. And now it's in the show. The show is done, and we're doing commentary on it.
I don't get to hear any of it. I haven't heard Junior sing this yet. I had to hear the version of you singing, which I love
Oh,
to
that's
dance
terrible.
to, by the way.
The version of me, because I do a rough of all these songs so I can send it to Kurt. I was joking when I said I didn't know who Kurt was. He was the music director at my church in 1989 when I started thinking about VeggieTales, and I asked him if he could do some songs, and that was 1990 or 91, and he's been doing veggie music ever since. So he is the king of vegetable music. Like in the world, for all of history, no one has written more vegetable-related songs than Kurt Heineke. The sheep are dancing, but they're not singing. They can dance? Sheep can dance,
We got
but they
him.
can't sing.
We got him cheap.
These sheep are great dancers, but unfortunately they're mute.
Yeah.
So you can have a choice. You can pay this much and get singing sheep that can't dance, or this much and get dancing sheep that can't sing.
Yeah.
I think you made the right choice.
These are all
Todd.
repurposed models, by the way. These all existed on the veggie library.
Really? They were in the back lot?
Yeah, that's right.
They were in the back. But
Yeah, we just missed the big musical number just ended.
I know, it was good. It was very exciting. I liked it.
Great. Well, you wrote the
Thank
song.
Do you know how many parts I sing in that song? Do you know how many, Todd?
Please tell
Do you know
me
how many
how many.
parts I sing in that song?
Oh, 7 or 8?
10. It's my record.
10.
There's 10 of me singing that song.
We're not counting
'cause
the
I'm-
sheep, Phil.
No, not the sheep do not sing, as we previously established. I am Jimmy. I don't know who else. Archie, Pa, Grape, and Lunt. Say those 4 name characters. But then there's a P choir, and I'm 6 P's in the P choir, which is pretty much the whole P choir.
I don't know if you can count that.
What do you mean I can't count that?
I don't think you
sang
can.
6 different P's.
I like this
Into, like,
part.
Like 4 different parts. I don't know. See, was that Jimmy and Jerry, or were those extra French P's?
That was Jimmy and Jean-Claude and Philippe.
I'm sorry, Jean-Claude and Philippe.
Yes.
What am I saying?
Let's keep it straight.
Goliath.
Goliath.
I love that Goliath's
And
back
you
in the
voiced
show.
Goliath as well.
Yes, I do voice Goliath, Todd Waterman, the showrunner.
I thought
This
I
was a
voiced him.
last-minute addition, this little musical number, at the
Yeah.
9th hour because we were short on time to make the
very
30
nice.
minutes.
I'm thinking, though, okay, those trees in the background, I'm thinking those were painted by someone who doesn't actually live around snow, because the snow would only build up on top of those trees like that if there were leaves there to catch it. And in winter, there aren't leaves on the trees to catch the snow like that.
You know,
the
look,
leaves,
It's
they fall off.
branches. They're just
No. The snow would be all over the branches, not just on the ends of the branches.
Okay, I'm
It's
gonna have to tell
lovely.
Guy
It's-
Vasilovich,
It's Guy Vasilovich. I don't know, where did he grow up? In Burbank, I'm thinking?
Wisconsin, actually.
No, he did not grow
Yeah,
up in
that's a fact.
Wisconsin.
Let's keep-
Absolutely not.
Let's keep
Not
it to the show. The
possible.
fans want to know about the show here.
This is the stuff the fans want to know. Why does Guy only paint snow on the ends of the branches, not in the middle of the branches?
This is really cute.
This is very sweet. I think Goliath should be just a little bit bigger. I don't know. How did we decide how big he should be in this?
This is the size he's always been. So we just we didn't scale him.
What do you mean?
We didn't
Says
rescale him.
according to who?
According to the files that existed from past episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
This scene is a little odd where they just kind of do that.
Yeah, well, you know,
it's a nice
I
musical
watched
interlude.
a lot of Lawrence Welk episodes, and that was the inspiration. I kid you not.
They
And just
really
trying
got-
to get the studio to get these guys to move to the beat was
It's
quite
kind
a
of
challenge.
amazing that Bob the Tomato can lean when he only has a head. You're not really leaning, you're rolling.
That's
Madam Blueberry and Mr. Lunt, they're just heads.
Yeah,
And yet they can lean. Where did all the confetti come out of? Confetti flew out of Goliath. Is it like in his ears? Here comes the confetti
You know
out
what,
of
though?
my
There-
ears.
I did notice directing the animators that you still need to keep a shape to the characters so that it feels like the characters, even though they can
Yes.
contort quite a bit. Because with the way the controls are, you push them a little too much, they no longer feel like they're on model.
They turn into just puddles of goo.
Right.
or
I
Play-Doh
love,
that somebody stepped on.
yeah, I like Bob's
Oh, it's so
nose.
nice to have Junior back.
I didn't-
Junior. Not just because I'm married to the voice actress behind Junior, but I really like Junior.
He's great, and he's got a healthy role in all the episodes moving forward.
He does have a healthy role. We all have healthy roles.
Mm-hmm.
Do we?
We do.
Your role's pretty healthy. How much did that hat weigh that Larry had to wear? That's huge. It's like the top of the world's biggest cupcake.
I'm trying to think of a comeback, and I don't have one. I'm just
That's
can't
not
stop
your
staring
job.
at it.
That's not your job. Oh, look, it's Jean-Claude,
I
the
love
verse
this.
angel.
I love this part of the show that we get to do in every episode with him.
Do you think
coming
anyone
down.
will say, "Hey, where's QWERTY? Hey, where?" They already did online, and I had to say it's in a theater. He was on the kitchen countertop. You leave
Yeah.
the kitchen countertop, you don't drag QWERTY all the way down to the theater. This is a different world.
Well,
so
we get a little QWERTY kind of homage as far as the melody that Kurt
Oh
just
yeah,
put
yeah,
in.
yeah. Kurt put. I noticed that Kurt put a little what we have learned into the score.
That's
which
right.
Is very nice.
Yeah.
So if anyone complains, if everyone says, "Oh, I want QWERTY," it was my idea. My idea. I brought QWERTY into this world. I can take him out if I want to.
Yes, you can.
And it's nice to freshen it up with something that also fits the feel, but is theater related, which a 1980s IBM PC Junior is not theater related. So
Man, I'm
I
so-
stand by my decision.
I'm getting sad now. We're almost over.
Oh no!
Yeah. How do
He
you like the
looks like
swimsuit?
he looks like he's going bathing in 1890.
It's actually 1920.
He looks like he's going bathing in 1920, except for
Yeah.
the leather belt. I don't know how leather belts hold up.
He's got to wear a harness, otherwise he's just going to fall.
It must be tight to keep him from popping right out of it, because doesn't go under him or anything. It's just a belt.
Yay.
That's pretty cool that Goliath can bow without losing anything, without losing any ornaments.
That's
Oh,
Yeah,
what's
it's
going to
the-
happen? What's he going to do? What's he going to do? What's going to happen?
Do you miss the
Oh, action scene!
I have
It's
no
fun to
sound
end
right
with an
now.
action scene.
Do you miss his gold tooth?
No, I don't.
Good, I
No,
don't
because
either.
now we have implants. We
That's
don't
right.
need to have gold teeth anymore. We
Right.
have implants.
That'll
Back in the day, because people are sensitive. Are you, is he supposed to be? What is his ethnicity? And it's like, I don't even know. When I started, he was the Weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's what he was supposed to be, and he's a gangster sidekick, and he's just fun. And he had a gold tooth because the Weasels, one of the Weasels had a gold tooth, and I thought that was fun. So he doesn't have a gold tooth anymore, and that's fine because he got health insurance and it had dental.
I learn something new every day with you. Hey, we're done. Picture's
Is that
over.
it?
That's
Is that
it.
the end?
Yes.
What a great show. Good job, Todd.
Excellent work, Phil.
Let's make more.
Absolutely. I can't wait till the next one.
See you next time.
Have a good day.